can't believe I'm saying this, but Odell Beckham and Drewski have been Diddyfied. Yes, an official complaint of assault and something else I cannot say on social media just came out. And in the plaintiff section, it lists Drewski, OBJ, and Diddy.
I'm back to boy by TTS and Ian. Today we're taking a look at these creepy TikTok videos. Welcome back, guys. Today's video is actually kind of crazy. These are the winners of last week's riddle. Congrats to you guys. You guys have been doing pretty good. Like at least 10 people get it every video, at least. So today's riddle is, what goes up and down but never moves? If you guys know, put it down in the comments. And as y'all know, if you get it right, you'll get a video shout out. I finally dropped my haunted vlog videos. If you guys haven't checked that out, make sure to check that out after this video. I'm gonna tag it towards the end of the video, or just go down in the comment section and the video should be tagged. If you guys like this video, let's try to get over 2,000 likes this video. And as y'all know, these videos do get intense, so make sure to watch at your own risk and remember to subscribe.
The car veered off the road, crashing into a ditch, and witnesses called the police. They rushed to the scene expecting a recent accident, but in the dense bushes, they found something chilling. A car hidden for 5 months. Inside was the long dead body of a man who'd been missing since the summer. But multiple witnesses claimed they saw the crash as if it just happened. The mystery has never been solved and haunts locals to this day.
Okay, breaking news. In 2025, we now have boats colliding too. A major rescue operation is currently underway after an American oil tanker and a Portuguese cargo ship collided in the North Sea just off the coast of the UK. Now, reports and videos show that both vessels are currently on fire and that a number of people had abandoned the vessels in lifeboats. A British Coast Guard helicopter is being dispatched to the scene and efforts are underway to extinguish the fire, rescue the crew, and mitigate any environmental impact from the incident. Now, details about how this collision happened are still unclear, but what we do know is that the American oil tanker was anchored before being struck by the Portuguese cargo ship. We also know that this was just one of 10 oil tankers enlisted in a US government program, which is designed to supply armed forces with fuel during times of armed conflict or national emergency. Now, we don't know yet if there are any casualties, but of course, I'll keep you guys updated.
Boat-to-boat collision in 2025, that's actually crazy. I mean, he did say one was anchored down. That means one wasn't moving and then the other one is the one that hit it. You would think ships being that big, at least someone would have seen it coming, you know? Or maybe they did see it and just couldn't stop it.
A mother in Texas said her son was murdered and his body is being displayed at a bodies exhibit in Vegas, and stick with me because she has receipts. This is Christopher Todd Eric. He passed away in 2012 and his death was listed as a self-cancellation after police found traces of cyanide in his body. But his mother, Kim Eric Smith, said he would never do that, and she believes that he was murdered by his father and their step-family in Texas. She said she was told he was cremated, but it's obvious now that he never was, and his father donated his body to be put on display in Vegas to cover up what he did. And when you look at her son and one of the bodies on display, the resemblance is uncanny. And she has so much evidence on her Facebook, including what she believes is restraint marks going across his body from pictures shown in his autopsy, including the fact that his stepmother was also on a government watch list, and the fact that the receipt for the cyanide ordered to his apartment was actually forged. She believes experiments were done on her son and other people in exchange for things like money. And in her son's case, he received a 27-month lease to an apartment in exchange for his participation, but after signing the documents, he didn't know what he was getting into. Rest in peace to Christopher, and please help me spread the news so that him and his mother get the justice they deserve.
That picture they showed definitely kind of looked like him. Am I bugging? Like, what do you think? Like, I feel like it resembles him a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
You won't believe these jobs actually exist. Naming movies at Pixar. For this job, all you have to do is name Pixar's new movies and you can get paid up to $700,000 to do this. And apparently a woman that had this job got a $300,000 bonus for naming the movie Cars. Professional sleepers get paid up to $100,000 a year just to sleep. They do this for scientists to analyze their sleeping patterns or to test mattresses for hotels. An underwater hotel in the Florida Keys has an underwater pizza delivery man whose job is to deliver pizza to the hotel guests 21 feet below sea level. People completing surveys from their phones are now earning hundreds if not thousands a month.
There's some crazy things happening in the world right now. 5 guys were arrested for fighting at Five Guys. Amazon delivered a package to Mandy Moore's burned down house after the wildfires in LA. KFC is moving their headquarters from Kentucky to Texas. The son of a billionaire billionaire rented out Asia's biggest nightclub with a DJ so that he could deal with his breakup. The company Igloo is recalling over 1 million coolers because a faulty handle has been amputating fingertips. A woman gave a psychic $50,000 to help her fall in love, and now she wants a refund. An opossum was hospitalized after eating an entire Costco cake. I get it. A Minnesota man tried to put out a Boy Scout cabin fire with beer. Now he's being charged with arson. Kid Rock walked off stage mid-show in Nashville because the crowd wouldn't clap. Please clap. A man was swallowed by a whale and lived. A tourist lost both hands after a shark bit them off while she was trying to take a selfie. A daycare worker put a 4-year-old in a trash can because he refused to take a nap. Changes in Earth's magnetic field are triggering sea turtles to dance. Police found $50,000 worth of stolen Pokemon cards in an Australian home. A dad was charged with assault for shoving 2 child referees at a hockey game. And that's it.
Here are some facts that could one day save your life. If you ever see this tiny white spot on your bananas, watch out. This means there's a spider infestation, so make sure you throw those bananas out right away. And if you're ever out in the wilderness and have nothing to eat, dandelions are actually fully edible. If you ever take a picture with flash on and you notice a white dot on your pupil, you need to head to the doctor immediately because this could be a sign of disease. And if your drink ever smells like cinnamon, do not drink it. People actually use that as a tactic to cover up the smell of poison.
Whatever you do, do not look into her eyes.
Just a little bit ironic how he told us not to look into her eyes and then left her face up for like 30 seconds.
Most evil kids ever, part 1. At only 8 years old, Armajit Sada is the youngest known serial killer in the entire world. The young Indian boy was accused of murdering 3 babies.
Ways you can survive SCP-096 or the Shy Guy. The Shy Guy is a malicious humanoid entity currently being contained by the mysterious SCP Foundation in an undisclosed location somewhere around the globe. The first rule you'll want to follow if you want to avoid an encounter with this entity is to never look it directly in its face or at a photograph of its face, as this will immediately cause it to start hunting you down no matter where you are with the intention of ending your life, and it won't stop until the job is done. If, for some reason, you can't avoid looking SCP-096 in its face, the second rule will come into play. Run. Run very fast, and don't stop running. Ever. There are virtually 0 weapons that can damage this creature, so your best option is to buy yourself some time while the SCP Foundation works on a solution to containing it. Finally, you'll want to look for isolated and hard to reach places to hide in. This includes airplanes, islands, etc. Basically anything that will put a large amount of distance between you and the Shy Guy. Tag a friend if you're watching this alone, and follow for more.
I mean, I love how he says, you don't want to look at his face. If you look at his face, it might come and haunt you down. But then shows a fat picture of his face. I'm like, dude, thanks for the warning, man.
Warning signs you should never ignore. If you heard this ringing noise in your ear, that is a sign that you are lacking vitamin B12. If you're always thirsty and feel like you can't drink enough water, you may want to get checked for diabetes. It could be nothing but low insulin causing you to pee more, which then causes you to drink more water. If your hair is starting to get thin, this could be a sign your body not producing enough hemoglobin, so you should need to eat more foods that are rich in iron. If you're getting random bruises and you have no clue where they came from, this is a sign that you have an iron deficiency. So try to eat more foods with vitamin K and zinc-enriched foods. If a person always feels cold all the time, even in hot weather, that means the person has a thyroid problem and may need to see a doctor.
Normal looking photos that have a disturbing backstory, part 17. This is YouTuber Sarah Funk, who was vlogging her trip to Cyprus's Red Lake. The suitcase in the water was actually discovered to contain the body of a 12-year-old girl who was murdered by a serial killer. At $1.5 million, this is one of the most valuable violins in the world. The initials WH stand for Wallace Hartley, who was the lead violinist aboard the Titanic. This was the instrument he played the night the ship sank before Wallace himself died. This is Jimmy Savile, a famous DJ who was even knighted by the Queen of England. However, he was a pedophile who raped over 300 children at the hospitals he ran, and he even raped their dead bodies. A couple was staying at an underwater cabin at the Manta Resort. This photo shows Steven proposing to his girlfriend through the cabin window. She said yes, but when she waited for her fiance to return, he never made it out of the water and drowned.
We need to talk about pedophile symbols in children's movies and books for a second. So these are symbols that the FBI in the past has claimed that pedophiles use to communicate with each other. This is a known thing, and there are actually people who belong to these groups who have come out and stated that yes, these groups do align with these symbols. So take a good look, especially up here to the left. So these are some screenshots from the children's film Alina of Avalor. Do you notice any symbols right here on one of the characters? Well, some of the other symbols from that sheet are found on another one of the characters in the film. Then there's the movie The Mighty Ducks, where one of the characters' helmets not only has one of those symbols, it actually has both of them. Same character, same helmet. I mean, that's pretty strange, right? There's also the film The Flight of the Navigator, where you can clearly see this same symbol being used again and again throughout the film. And these same symbols can also be found on diapers, you can see them clearly right there, on CDs that are clearly produced for and marketed towards children, interactive books made for children like these, and they can even be observed as far back as in Pinocchio. So, what do you think? Is this all just one big coincidence? Are these commonly used symbols? Or are these symbols seen in children's films and media for a reason? I don't know, maybe it was an animator that had certain proclivities themselves that wanted to brag to people that would recognize this, that they had gotten away with getting a job working near children. Or maybe it's all just a coincidence.
But I'm trying to figure out, like, what's the reason of even putting it in the kids' shows in the first place, if you know what I'm trying to say. It's like, are you just trying to show the world? Like, let's say someone actually knows the symbol, because I would have never known. Or is it just to be like, hey guys, look at me, like I made this show and I love boys. Like, what?
This is the reason why you should never travel late night in the southern part of the United States. A group of bikers were going through these mountains when they were able to spot this creature. The creature was going side by side, alerting the bikers not to get any closer. Many people have claimed seeing skinwalkers through this little trail before, but the bikers decided to take this path anyways. Skinwalkers are extremely popular in the Navajo culture, and they can transform into different things like owls, wolves, and different creatures to travel late night. What a terrifying situation for these bikers.
So you probably have questions. I may have answers. Anyway, this is the Bodo, aka the Amazon River Dolphin, aka a sentient hot dog that got left in a microwave of life too long. A flipper paralysis demon if I've ever seen one. See, now what had happened was, scientists studied these river pigs for over 200 hours, and there were 36 separate times where one decided to become a sentient sprinkler for apparently no reason. Questionable use of free will, and scientists hit a mental roadblock trying to figure out the why. Here's my guess. Fun fact, dolphins can recognize each other by using their version of names. It's pretty cool. They can also recognize each other by tasting urine, so they got that two-factor authentication going. That's not a joke. Scientists watch dolphins carefully listen to the sounds of whistles and consolidate that by sampling their south shower before giving them the how the heck are ya. Another thing is that nature's forgotten bubblegum isn't blind, but with the murky river water they live in, they might as well be, so senses like smell and taste carry the team. And the last thing is that male dolphins form lifelong alliances where they help each other get laid, and being on our smelly timing is how they prove their identity. It's not really that crazy. Animals like lions spray to mark their territory, giraffes will taste bladder product to see if a female's ready, and porcupines will really gift a golden shower to let the lady know he's on timing. So that's my guess. Or they could just be playing, cause the way those males in alliances bond is something I can't talk about on here. Not so shameless plug, but nah, for real, Goblins is probably already gonna spank me for showing that video, so if you're curious and you wanna know what I'm talking about, there you go. The more you know.
Seemingly normal photos with disturbing backstories?
Part 1. This photo shows Apollo 1 astronauts praying as a joke, and not a single one of them returned back to Earth. This is a photo of a man smiling in the trenches during the war, but he wasn't smiling because he was happy. He was smiling due to shell shock and borderline insanity. This just looks like 3 girls taking a selfie, but the light in the background is actually a train which hits and ends all their lives just seconds later.
3 facts that could save your life. Part 6. If you ever find yourself stranded on a beach somewhere, try and stay as dry and warm as possible, gathering supplies before it gets dark to, of course, make a fire. People don't realize that as soon as the sun goes down, it gets extremely cold on those waterfronts, and you can more or less die of hypothermia actually pretty quickly. If you ever find yourself hiking and needing of water, don't ever eat the snow. Eating the extremely cold snow while being extremely cold can actually give your body internal hypothermia, unaliving you actually pretty fast. If you're ever walking to your car and it's extremely dark outside, make sure you have your keys in your hand. If an intruder or someone comes near you to bother you, you can sound the alarm of your car, more or less scaring them off or getting at least somebody else's attention. Like and follow for more.
For the first time ever, a wild animal has been observed using a medicinal plant to treat a wound. So scientists just observed an orangutan in the wild doing something no other wild animal has ever been seen doing. You see, apparently this orangutan got into a little scuffle, and this scuffle caused the orangutan to get a wound below its eye. After getting this wound, scientists observed the orangutan chewing up a plant that is not normally part of its diet, and after chewing this plant, the orangutan would take the chewed paste and apply it to its wound below its eye. Now, the orangutan doing this was no random coincidence, because as it turns out, the plant that it was chewing did indeed have medicinal values. Now, because the orangutan decided to use this plant to treat its wound, the wound closed up after about a month, and the orangutan never got any kind of infection from the wound. Now that this has been observed in the wild, scientists are trying to figure something else out. They're trying to figure out if all orangutans know about these healing plants and are taught about the plants from other orangutans as they grow up, or if this is just some sort of animal instinct that the orangutans just automatically know when they're born.
Here are some facts that'll definitely save your life. If you ever live alone and you hear footsteps upstairs your house while you're downstairs, they already know you're there. Most house intruders aren't random. They've already been watching you. If you ever hear movements upstairs while you're alone, their plan is already in motion. Leave your house as fast as you can and as quietly as you can, and only confront when trapped. If a stranger asks you, "Do you live alone?" always lie. Always reply to that question with, "Oh, I live with parents," or "My roommate's home," or "My boyfriend's coming home soon." This can immediately dissuade predators targeting solo victims. If you ever find a door ajar in your home and you didn't leave it that way, back away immediately. Intruders sometimes leave doors open, no matter how slightly they are, as a trap. Walking into that room, especially if that room has no form of escape like windows, makes you extremely vulnerable. Leave immediately and call the police, even if this means finding out there's no intruder in the process. And finally, if you're ever being chased, never run in a straight line. Run in a zigzag or any other pattern. Zigzagging can make it harder for a pursuer to predict their path, especially if they're armed or driving. As you continue running that way, always try to run in crowds or areas with light or noise. Stay safe.
Creepiest home camera footage. In 2017, a mother in Billings, Montana woke up in the middle of the night to a notification on her phone. Her phone was synced to a baby monitor she had set up in her infant daughter's room. On this night, upon being alerted, she opened the app expecting to see her daughter awake in the crib. But instead she saw this. A man she didn't know is seen crouched down in the room. She saw this and ran to the room to retrieve her daughter and run out the house. She didn't see anyone in the room but wasn't exactly looking. When she called the cops, they arrived and conducted a search of the home but didn't find anything. A very odd detail is that it was found that nothing but the remote to a dog shock collar was stolen from the house. Who this man is and how he got in the house is still unknown.
On March 5th, 1974, 17-year-old Amy Billig vanished while hitchhiking to her dad's office in Coconut Grove, Florida. A few days later, 16-year-old twins who lived in the neighborhood claimed they kidnapped Amy and wanted $30,000, but police discovered this was a hoax and the case went cold. But Amy's mom, Susan, never gave up. She traveled the country chasing down leads. However, soon she started receiving harassing phone calls from a man claiming to have Amy. This went on for 21 years until one day the caller accidentally used his cell phone instead of a payphone, allowing it to be traced back to Henry Blair, a man who had become obsessed with the case but had no connection to Amy, so her disappearance remains unsolved.
A convenience store in Japan was getting robbed so often that the owner came up with a genius plan to stop thieves using only these orange balls. See, the convenience store was in the busy city of Yokohama, which gave thieves a huge advantage, because all they had to do was quickly grab what they wanted to steal, then run out to the street where they quickly blended in. To make matters worse, most of them just had a getaway car ready to go, which made it nearly impossible for police to identify them when they drove off. But instead of trying to lock everything in the store behind bars, this store owner simply placed a basket of what seemed like harmless rubber balls near the cash register. Soon, a thief grabbed some items before running out to his getaway car, but before he could drive away, the store owner threw one of the orange balls at the car. The moment it made contact, it split open, launching neon orange paint all over the car. He then called police, who easily tracked down the car before arresting the thieves. Since then, these orange balls have become a very popular anti-theft tools found in thousands of stores across Japan. Employees even undergo specialized training to throw the balls more accurately at thieves so police could track them down.
That's a good idea, but like, what if they don't have a getaway car that day? What if bro decided to just run out without a car? Then what?
This man built a memorial to Adolf Hitler in Wisconsin. And yes, he was a real ex-Yahtzee soldier. So this is Theodore Junker outside of his memorial, holding a photograph of himself when he was enlisted in the SS. You see, Theodore after World War II had come over to America. And when he got over to America, he decided that America had gotten it all wrong. Just take a look right here at one of the signs inside of his shrine. Adolf did not start World War II. Not one person was gassed to death. He respected all races. Oh, and he protected Paris. This museum that he had set up was a whole shrine, and he was incredibly proud of it. There was tons of controversy in this small town in Wisconsin, and they said he couldn't open it up, but he did anyways. And the whole thing was giving praise to the Yahtzees and their leader. And the whole thing, you can still Google pictures of it, was incredibly bizarre and disturbing. Now, eventually Theodore would die in the year 2013, and shortly afterwards his property went abandoned. And for years, this entire thing sat out in the woods in Wisconsin deteriorating. A very creepy reminder of a very disturbing past. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You have to pause to read some of these plaques. Now, the site was demolished in 2023, but the pictures will live on forever. And I just could not believe this story. I was actually in Wisconsin and someone told me about the abandoned Yahtzee museum in the woods, and I didn't believe them until I Googled it and figured out that it is very real.
So this TikToker, let's call her Spirit. One day, she's in bed and she starts seeing these creatures, and they start talking to her. Now, Spirit is 14 years old, she's a good kid, she goes to private school, she's class president, and she also makes a lot of TikToks. Mostly just dancing and lip-syncing videos. Spirit also has an older sister. Let's just call her Angel. Angel's 19, and she has cerebral palsy, and she uses a wheelchair. And when Spirit and Angel hang out, Spirit sings her songs and reads to her. They seem to be happy. But over time, Spirit's TikToks start to change. They get a little darker, kind of an emo vibe, because she's being bullied at school. She's becoming depressed. She also thinks she might be trans, but it isn't clear. And so Spirit retreats more and more into the horror movies she likes, and she starts to have dark, intrusive thoughts. And one day, Spirit has a normal day. She goes to school, she gets home, she posts a TikTok, and bedtime comes and she goes to bed and everyone in the house is asleep. And that is when she's approached by these creatures. And I don't know what to call them, so we'll just call them demons. And these demons, they start speaking to her. Now, Spirit doesn't like this. It scares her. She doesn't know what to do. Then the demons start bullying her. They're making fun of the way she looks, they're taunting her for maybe being trans, and they allegedly start telling her to hurt herself. So Spirit gets out of bed and she sneaks through the dark and she goes downstairs. She goes to the kitchen and grabs a large kitchen knife, and the demons keep taunting her. So finally, Spirit does the only thing she can think of. She turns the knife on one of the demons and she stabs it, hoping it'll go away. And she does this over and over again. And eventually she stops and she looks down and realizes she wasn't stabbing a demon. She had been stabbing her sister, Angel. So Spirit calls 911. Then she goes out into the front yard and waits for the police. Police get there and she straight up admits it. I unalived my sister. So they arrest her and it's a huge deal, and all her TikTok followers are like, what the f***? And eventually, all of this goes to trial. And at the trial, Spirit's attorney argues a version of the story I just told you. That Spirit killed Angel because Spirit was depressed, experiencing hallucinations, which I represented with pictures of demons, but who knows what the hell she was seeing. Now, the prosecuting attorney, on the other hand, they argue that's bullshit. That this wasn't because of hallucinations, and that Spirit was obsessed with homicide, and that she would often talk to her friends about unaliving people, and that she shows no remorse in killing her sister. And allegedly, when Spirit was in police custody, an officer's phone rings, and his ringtone is the theme to Halloween, and Spirit jokes, "I just Michael Myers to my sister." And then another time while in police custody, police gave her McDonald's, and she said, "I would have killed someone sooner if I knew I was getting McDonald's." And so the prosecuting attorneys use all of these things against Spirit in court. However, both prosecution and defense agree that Spirit is mentally unwell. So Spirit is tried as an adult, and eventually she pleads guilty to third-degree murder, and here's her mugshot, and she's in prison now, serving 12 to 40 years. And to this day, we still don't exactly have a clear understanding of why she did it.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but Odell Beckham and Drewski have been Diddy-fied. Yes, an official complaint of assault and something else I cannot say on social media just came out. And in the plaintiff section, it lists Drewski, OBJ, and Diddy. And obviously we want to hear both sides of the story, but they are being accused of some insane things. I'll let you read this part on your own, but apparently Drewski was treating people like slip and slides and knocking them out due to his enormous size. What has 2025 come to? And again, we have to hear both sides of the story, but OBJ and Drewski have already been linked together in multiple pictures. Sure, we've all seen the skit that Drewski did at Diddy's house, and you know, we didn't think very much when it happened, and it is totally backfired on his career, I guess, now. So obviously we have to hear both sides of the story, but OBJ and Drewski may be in a lot of trouble.
That's crazy, because I woke up this morning and I saw that. I was like, Odell and Drewski. If anyone doesn't know Drewski, he's a really funny guy. He's like a social media influencer comedian type of guy. He's hilarious, funny. Like, his shows are hilarious. Like, I love him. This is what he looks like. Like, he's a pretty big dude. So when he was saying he was slipping, sliding inside and out of people, I was like, you know what I'm saying? That's crazy, dude. I don't know. A lot of crazy things went on at that Diddy party. So hopefully his name get cleared. But Odell, it's like, I don't know. Odell has been caught up in a lot of weird things in the past. So, and there's that video of him and Justin Bieber and Trey Young's inside Diddy's house. So yeah, who knows, bro? Who knows what happened inside that mansion?
100% tariffs? Nah, bro, yo, RIP Canada. Rest in peace. Canada is getting wiped off the map. Do y'all understand how crazy 100% tariffs are? Yo, that's basically me saying, yo, I'm trying to buy these pants from China for $8, but now I also gotta pay $8 just to get the fucking pants from China. $8 shipping fee. That's basically the same fucking thing. Whatever you pay for as the product's fucking starting price, you pay for in tariffs as well. You're basically paying double for single. What a fucking deal. You know what, bro? Hold on. Let me backtrack, because my knowledge on tariffs isn't that good, and the entire thing I just said might be wrong, but still, 100% tariffs? 100%. I'm not gonna lie, but that is an unhealthy number that Canada is gonna have to deal with. Yo, if you ever decide to move to Canada, which, like, who the fuck even does that, right? Nothing you see there is gonna have the label made in China, because I guarantee you, bro, Canada is not paying that shit. Like, bro, who the fuck would want to pay 100% on tariffs? No one.
100% tariffs is crazy. I'm pretty sure that's basically saying, like, if you pay $50 for this, it's another $50 to get it shipped to you, which is crazy. That's like a lot, dude.
Mass surrenders by the Ukrainian military as they're on the verge of collapse today. Nearly 50,000 Ukrainians have surrendered in the past 24 hours as the Russian military pushes through the front lines. 2 days ago, 10,000 Russian troops crawled through an underground oil pipeline to hit the Ukrainians behind the lines. The Russians have been encircling major Ukrainian battalions, and the Kursk region is almost collapsed. The Kursk region, which is the Ukrainian counteroffensive in blue, is fully encircled, as over 100,000 troops are now waiting to surrender. These Ukrainian helmets are being found by the Russians, bearing the same symbols that Germany wore in World War II when invading Russia. What's making this push so successful is the Chechen forces from the Russian, which is a highly aggressive Islamic fighting force that takes no prisoners. So after this 2-year stalemate, Putin sent these guys in and they are wreaking havoc. Pair this with the US cutting off all intel to Ukraine, meaning US satellites are no longer giving Ukrainians exact coordinates of the Russian. Is it time for Zelensky and Ukraine to settle for peace?
Yeah, that's another country that's getting absolutely railed, is Ukraine, dude. Crazy times we're living in. I feel like the war might be over sooner than we think, honestly. If anything, it might be over today, if I'm being honest. Hopefully, you know what I'm saying, Zelensky can come in, we can have peace talks, and everything can just chill out. Because, like,
on a crowded bus, an elderly man persistently asked a young man to give up his seat. However, the young man remained silent, not reacting. Frustrated by the lack of response, the elderly man lost his patience and delivered a strong slap to the young man's face. To everyone's surprise, the young man did not retaliate and remained impassive until the next stop, where he silently got off the bus. The elderly man then took the vacant seat but kept grumbling. However, just a few seconds later, his face turned pale, his body slumped forward, and under the astonished gazes of the passengers, he passed away right there. Later, his family sued the young man, demanding an exorbitant compensation. However, after reviewing the bus's surveillance footage, the court determined that the young man had remained calm the entire time and had done nothing wrong, dismissing all accusations. The case sparked debate, with some suggesting that the elderly man knew his days were numbered and had, in some way, tried to secure compensation for his family. But since the young man did not take the bait, the plan failed, and his own anger may have triggered his tragic end. Fortunately, the young man kept his composure otherwise. The consequences could have been far more severe.
Scientists just found new evidence that supports the story of Noah's Ark. Spread this to say I told you so to your friends that don't believe in Noah's Ark. And for those that already know the story of Noah, skip to this timestamp. For everyone else, I'll briefly let y'all know how the story goes. So back in the book of Genesis, God decided to essentially start the world over by letting a worldwide flood happen. Now this flood ended up wiping out everyone in the world except for a man named Noah and his family. This is because God told Noah to build an ark and Noah listened. While building the ark, many people showed up to ridicule Noah, basically saying that what he is doing is pointless, until the floodwaters showed up and everybody wanted on that ark, but it was too late for them. Now God instructed Noah to bring 2 of every animal in the ark, which he did, which is what preserved animals on earth after the flood. Now after the flood, the Bible says the ark ended up on a mountain called Mount Ararat, which is where this new scientific discovery comes into play. You see, there is this site on Mount Ararat, which is kind of an odd geographic shape, but for years it's been kind of thought of as the final resting place of Noah's Ark. There's a lot of old evidence that supports the theory that this is Noah's Ark, but there's some new evidence that really supports that theory, as these new findings showed that this formation was once submerged underwater. Scientists have found soil samples which contain things like clay-like materials, marine deposits, and seafood remnants, all of which are dated back to a time that fits on the timeline of when Noah's flood would have happened. This has caused researchers to believe that the area was once filled with water, which reinforces the possibility that a catastrophic flood could have happened. Scientists have also found evidence that humans were in this area, which people believe is more evidence of this being Noah's Ark.
Now, the real question I'm trying to figure out is, like, how did Noah know that each animal was a male or a female? Like, what if he got 2 males on the ship? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no chance of that species surviving. And also, how many animals did he not bring on the ship? Like, how many animals got extinct because he forgot about them, or they just didn't appear on the ship?
This video proves that skinwalkers are real. In the Navajo Native American culture, skinwalkers are believed to be shape-shifting witches that take the form of animals. And as the legend goes, these creatures are dangerous spirits. Many people in North America have reported seeing these skinwalkers in real life, and there's even movies and TV shows about them. There are hundreds of videos online claiming to have caught a skinwalker on camera. However, this home security camera footage caught something very disturbing. The video at first appears to be pretty normal, just showing a family's backyard pool. But if you look closely to the right of their basketball hoop, it appears that some strange-looking creature is climbing the fence to their backyard. The creature looks to have a humanoid-like torso, head, and arms. And all it does is just climb up the fence and look around the backyard. If we take a closer look, we can see that the creature definitely appears to look like a human being. And just a few seconds later, the creature vanishes.
Every time I say gorillas share 98% of our DNA, y'all either call me an idiot, an atheist, or a monkey. Well, I'm gonna prove it. With funny. This is Hauko the gorilla. You see, Hauko had a problem. He's a proud father of 4 who loves nothing more than to play with his children. Because it's actually scientifically proven that gorillas find the nurturing, child-raising males more attractive and not really the aggressive bully types. Hauko knows ball, but the problem was his baby mama wasn't always too eager to have the 500-pound silverback handle such a tiny baby. So in all of Hauko's infinite gorilla wisdom, he came up with a solution. He kidnapped her. Repeatedly. Really gonna tell me you don't see the 98? Bro even tried to knock over the crate as a diversion. Also, I just want to point out all that movement, yet the baby remains still. That's perfect form. He's done this before. Hauko would do this with all his children, proving my scientific theory correct. This a game to him. I mean, just peep the 500 pounds of primate swerve in that corner. Whoa. And if you still don't believe the hype, Hauko also has a brother, Shabani, and Shabani has been trying to get the attention of his crush for years with no luck, so one day he decided to just go for it. And you're watching it happen. Gorilla or not, we've all been him at some point. Yo, I got a girl and I still be on this. I will say this though, it went a lot better than his first attempt. God bless you, Shabani. And fun fact, Shabani would go viral for boosting ticket sales because women genuinely found the gorilla attractive. No, I'm not kidding. They were calling him Gorilla George Clooney. No comment. And if you're still not convinced, I challenge you to watch this video and think otherwise. Please. The more you know.
Here's some news that will give you hope. This couple just shattered the world record for the longest marriage, celebrating 84 years together and still going strong. A blind 20-year-old cat named Tiki was stranded on a frozen lake in Massachusetts when the ice cracked beneath him. 2 men working nearby jumped into a rowboat, broke through the ice with a shovel, and pulled him to safety just in time. A single mom working as a bartender in Houston got a $20,000 Christmas miracle when Post Malone surprised her with the massive tip on Christmas Eve. Veteran homelessness is at its lowest level ever, with just 32,000 veterans without housing, the fewest since tracking began in 2009. The murder hornet has officially been wiped out in the United States after first being spotted in Washington 5 years ago. A missing dog was found in Illinois after being lost for a week, finally spotted thanks to thermal technology on a drone. 1,200 goats have been hired to prevent wildfires in Colorado by eating overgrowth, reducing fire risk with their endless snacking. Where do I sign up? An entire town learned sign language to surprise their deaf neighbor, making communication easier for everyone. A man fishing in the middle of the night in South Africa reeled in something unexpected when his fishing line hooked onto a drowning woman's jeans, pulling her to safety from a deadly riptide.
What's the scariest urban legend from your state? Today we're doing Rhode Island. Freddy Fingernails is an urban legend that has been around since the mid-20th century, and some people speculate that it might have inspired Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street. This urban legend is from Cumberland, Rhode Island. As the legend goes, there was a man that lived with his family near a camp, and one evening the children at this camp were dared to go to their house and set it on fire. Unfortunately, the family was home, and this would end in the loss of his wife and his children. Fred also was not spared from the pain. His face was badly burnt, and he was disfigured for the rest of his life. Now, there are 2 versions of this story. One version says that Fred, who was eventually given the name of Freddy Fingernails, hated the noise that came from this camp. So when the campers were loud, he would go to this camp and take the lives of the children that were making the noise. Another version of this legend goes that anytime you went into the woods and wound up on Freddy Fingernails' property, he would take your life. And the reason for the name Freddy Fingernails is because while he was out in the woods, his fingernails kept growing and growing and growing until they looked like claws. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that Freddy Fingernails is real? Either way, don't make too much noise at camp because he might come get you. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and follow for more creepy things.
Disturbing facts that are guaranteed to freak you out. The United States military has lost at least 3 nuclear bombs, meaning that there are 3 nuclear bombs that have never been found. In Cameroon in 1986, a potential landslide produced a huge cloud of carbon dioxide to emit from a lake, and that cloud of CO2 ended up killing 1,700 people in their sleep. And lastly, this one is super gross, but it is possible for a human being to become so constipated that they begin throwing up feces.
This is a terrifying case. It's terrifying because it could happen to any of us. Welcome to Creep Time on TikTok with Celestine. This is the haunting story of the Watcher. On June of 2014, Derek and Maria Broaddus and their 3 children are moving into what they believe is their dream home. This house would later be known as the infamous 657 Boulevard. 3 days following the sale, an anonymous letter is received signed The Watcher. The letter would describe intimate details about the family and claim to be from someone who was watching the house. The letter is brought to the police with the former homeowners, and they're instructed to keep everything quiet while the investigation is underway. 2 weeks would pass, and a second letter is received detailing even more knowledge of the family. Chillingly, the letter is now describing things that are taking place inside the home. Things that you could only report seeing if you were watching through a window. The letter would describe details of watching their daughter paint from inside the house. The family would actually remove their children from the home and then worked for 2 years trying to sell it. But at this point, details of the case and rumors of the house had already circulated through the media, and the house was essentially unsellable. In 2016, they're finally able to find a buyer, but then another letter is received. This letter is vicious and threatening, even going as far as to threaten an accident that could happen to a family member. Despite security cameras, fingerprint samples, cold leads, police are never able to identify the Watcher, nor do they know if the Watcher is still watching 657 Boulevard.
This guy was kayaking with his family when a humpback whale swallowed him, and it was all caught on camera. Let me explain. This here is Del Simancas, and he and his son Aaron decided to do a little father-son bonding by going kayaking off the coast of Chile. Everything was going well, the weather was nice, and the water was calm, and they looked like they were having a pretty good time. That's when, quite literally out of the blue, a humpback whale surfaces and literally inhales Adrian and his kayak. Thankfully, after a few seconds, the whale spat him out and he resurfaced. And while all of this was going down, Del remained in a surprisingly calm state and recorded this all on his camera. In the footage, you can hear Del tell his son to stay calm.
Hey! Ya, vente, vente!
And Adrian manages to safely swim to his dad's kayak, and they both make it back in one piece. Now, after the incident, Adrian said that he didn't think he was going to make it. He thought the whale had swallowed him whole, and it was going after his dad next. But now he and his father have bravely decided to share the footage to show people that you can in fact survive getting swallowed by a whale.
Here is a quick list of true crime documentaries for the month of February if you haven't seen them already. First, we have Wicked Game Devil in the Desert on Hulu. Hunting the mastermind of a violent abduction, police unravel a twisted tale of obsession during the early days of legalized pot. Next, we have Fox Hollow Murders on Hulu. This docuseries is about serial killer Herb Baumeister, and they start an investigation after finding thousands of bones in the woods behind Fox Hollow Farms. With new DNA technology, they are working to identify those human remains. Next, we have American Murder, Gabby Petito on Netflix. Most of us have heard about Gabby's case, but in this docuseries, they go more in depth about her last days on a road trip gone wrong with her fiancé. Last but not least, we have How I Escaped My Cult on Hulu. In this docuseries, it's a look into modern-day cults through the lens of members who escaped and all the trauma that they endured and investigations going towards these groups. Once you check out these true crime documentaries, let me know down below which one was your favorite, and also if you would like me to make a list for March.
If you live in the UK and have an iPhone, you're absolutely screwed. Apple has now announced that it will not offer UK users its advanced data protection tool anymore. This is extremely worrying, let me explain. Make sure you share this video with anybody who has an iPhone, because trust me, you're gonna need to see this. Advanced data protection, which Apple did offer worldwide, essentially an end-to-end encryption tool, so it made your data on your device extremely secure. Anything you stored in the iCloud, in your phone, anywhere, it was extremely secure, no one could see it, not even Apple. Of course, the UK government intervened with this. A couple of weeks ago, they demanded access to Apple users' encrypted data, essentially wanting to see everything that is on your phone in the background. Nothing's going to be private anymore. Apple basically said this is mad, but just completely stopped that data protection in the UK. Wouldn't just hand over all your data to the government either. But there's still a lot of areas in your phone that are completely end-to-end encrypted. No one will be able to see that, so don't worry. But at the same time, the government will probably be able to access certain things, and it's also going to make it slightly easier for hackers to get into. So make sure you have strong passwords, change your passwords regularly, so just stay safe, and I'll keep you updated.
By the time Nicholas Prosper was stopped by police in Luton, he'd already shot dead his mum, brother and sister. What they discovered was that he was on his way to commit a mass shooting at his old primary school. Hours earlier, the 19-year-old had recorded a video revealing his murderous intentions, saying he would take revenge on his 13-year-old sister who made an incorrect decision on a Walking Dead video game. Prosper was consumed by a love for extreme violence and harming children, in a chilling echo of the Southport attack just months earlier. He spent all his time in his room on the internet, and his neighbours didn't even know he existed. He peppered online forums with his disturbed ramblings, and even got himself banned from a sick website where millions of users share and comment on videos of people being killed because of his warped stance on child abuse. Now this online obsessed loner has pleaded guilty to 3 murders that have torn his family and his community into pieces.
Mohammed, right? How do you know that he wasn't the one behind the Twin Towers? He tried to do the Twin Towers, bro. There was a lot of Mohammeds that were in the Twin Towers.
And this is why I said that Ash Trevino is evil. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let me break it down for you. Ash was on live with a woman named Zarha. Her father was unalived by Ash's ex-husband Isaiah. Zara's father was Mohammed Hashimi, and he was 50 years old when he was unalived by Ash's ex-husband Isaiah and 3 other men. Mohammed's life was taken while he was trying to deposit money into the bank, and Isaiah and these 3 other men basically stole his money and dumped his body and fled. She defended Isaiah and said that this woman's father deserved to. This man's life was savagely taken, and he left behind his wife and 7 kids. The fact that she went on live and told the victim's daughter that her father deserved to die. Not only that, but to say that he was involved in the 9/11 attack because of his name. Apparently Ash was drunk, but that's not an excuse. Either way, she said some very foul and disgusting things to this woman. Anyone who goes and watches her lives after this and supports her, shame on you.
I don't know who that is, but why shame on me? That's not my beef. You know what I'm saying? It's funny because people be saying that drunk words are sober thoughts. So
here is some news that will give you hope. A 94-year-old grandma who spent her entire life in Ohio is finally seeing the world after getting her first passport at 91, already traveling to Africa and Antarctica with her grandson. An Apple Watch saved 3 skiers who fell over 1,000 feet in Washington state, automatically sending an emergency alert that led to a dramatic helicopter rescue. A storage unit in California held a hidden treasure found by a local highway officer. 12 unreleased Michael Jackson songs recorded between 1989 and 1991. It featured behind-the-scenes creative sessions with Michael and his producer, but may unfortunately never be released due to the estate restrictions from the Jackson family. Teen drug use has hit an all-time low, with post-pandemic high schoolers using fewer substances than ever, and we really don't know why fully yet. An 8-year-old boy named Zayn traded his skateboard to save a feral kitten from being harmed by other kids in his neighborhood. He named the cat Peaches, and after hearing his story, Zoomies rewarded him with a fully customized skateboard. A man in Virginia celebrated his wife's 40th birthday by paying for 40 pet adoptions, giving dozens of animals a second chance at life. Portland is paying homeless residents to clean up trash and have already collected over £1 million while helping people get back on their feet.
A director of a funeral home has been sentenced to 20 years in jail for illegally selling body parts. 46-year-old Megan Hess has been sentenced for dissecting 560 bodies and selling remains without family consent. Her mum, 69-year-old Shirley Koch, has also been jailed for 15 years. She reportedly helped her daughter cut up the bodies. These horrific acts are said to have been motivated by pure greed and desire to make money off the deceased. An FBI Denver special agent has said the following: "Without knowledge or consent, the women disrespected the wishes of the grieving victims and degraded the bodies of their family members to sell them for profit." These two criminals continued their atrocities for years, showing no remorse or contrition even after they were exposed. Not only is it horrific what these women did to the victims and the loved ones, they were also shipping bodies and body parts from people carrying infectious diseases. Some of the bodies were infected with Hep B and C and even HIV, even though the women had claimed to buyers that they were disease-free. Shirley told the FBI, "She was the business part of it, I was really the labor part."
This woman received mysterious calls for months before something terrible happened. In 1980, Dorothy Jane Scott began receiving threatening calls from an unidentified man. It got so bad she started taking karate classes and contemplated buying a gun. But then on May 28, 1980, coworkers witnessed her car recklessly speeding out of a parking lot. The next day, her car was found burning in an alleyway with no one inside. Then a week after her disappearance, her parents began receiving mysterious phone calls from a man that were too short to be traced. They got a phone call almost every Wednesday afternoon. This went on for 4 years, until Dorothy's skeletal remains were found buried along with the bones of a dog. After her remains were recovered, her parents received one last phone call from the man who said, "Is Dorothy home?"
This British nana is currently sat on Bali's death row. I'm Trickham Caitlin, and this is Lindsay Sandyford. On the 19th of May 2012, 56-year-old Lindsay had flown from Bangkok to Bali, where she was arrested on arrival at the airport. During a routine search of the luggage, £1.6 million worth of cocaine was found within the lining of Lindsay's suitcase. She had been coerced into smuggling the drugs by a British antique seller and his wife. Lindsay cooperated with the police, aiding them in helping track down the traffickers. At her trial, due to her cooperation, the prosecution requested a 15-year sentence. However, she was shown no mercy and no leniency and was sentenced to death by firing squad. She would be sent to one of Indonesia's roughest prisons, Bali Kerabokan prison. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that right. During her time in prison, Lindsay has been quite reserved, not really mixing with the other prisoners. However, she would eventually become a grandmother figure to them. She hosts a knitting group where she teaches the other prisoners how to knit. She teaches some of the other girls life lessons. She has special privileges such as a mattress, and she is able to order steak from the canteen, which she does so once a week, ordering it medium rare. In Indonesia, when someone is executed by firing squad, they are given the option to either stand or sit while they're being shot at, and if the soldiers who are shooting at the prisoner don't kill them, a commander will approach the prisoner and then shoot them in the head. Lindsay does have a glimmer of hope to evade this fate. Due to new laws, there is a chance that Lindsay's death penalty sentence can be taken down to a life imprisonment sentence due to her good behaviour throughout her 11-year incarceration. If her sentence is reduced, there is a possibility that she could be brought back to the UK, where she will eventually be freed.
Let's take a look at one of the most interesting and terrifying unsolved cases in history, the Somerton Man. In 1948, in the dead of winter, the body of a middle-aged man was discovered lying on a beach in southern Australia. While this on its own would not have been enough to make international headlines, the circumstances of his death, along with the items in his possession, would go on to perplex law enforcement officials around the world. First, the man had no ID, and despite being very well dressed, all of the tags had been removed from his clothing, making him nearly impossible to identify at a glance. He had wounds that were typically found in poison victims. The only problem was no poison was ever found in his body, which was said to be in peak physical condition. But the greatest mystery related to this man wasn't found in his body, it was found in his suit jacket. In a hidden pocket in the jacket, investigators found a scrap of paper containing the words Taman Shud, which means it is finished in Persian. The paper was ripped out of a book known as the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Later, a copy would be found that matched that page. It contained a secret code which still remains uncracked to this day. Because of this, and the fact that the case occurred during the 1940s, many people suspect that the Somerton Man was actually a Soviet spy, but nobody can say for sure, and the case remains a perplexing mystery to this day. Comment if you think this case will one day be solved, and follow for more.
Last month, 3 suitcases were discovered in Florida with human remains inside, and now a man has been arrested for his wife's murder. On July 21st, police in Delray Beach, Florida found a suitcase in the intercoastal waterway after someone called 911 to report something strange they saw in the waterway. This discovery, police found 2 more suitcases nearby, and the next day found 2 additional bags. Inside the suitcases and bags were human remains of a woman only described at the time as, quote, a white or Hispanic middle-aged woman with brown hair, approximately 5'4". The investigation into these suitcases led police to surveillance footage that then led them to a suspect. Multiple witnesses told detectives about a vehicle and person who was seen in the area multiple times before the suitcases were found. A couple who lived near where the suitcases were discovered told detectives they saw a white male looking into the intracoastal waterway several days before July 21st, the day the suitcase was found. They said he appeared to be looking for something, presumably the suitcase, and they saw him 5 to 6 times over a 3-day period before the 21st. When confronted by the couple, the man said he was waiting for the big boat to come into the harbor. Another group of witnesses who were working on a roof at a property next to where the 3rd suitcase was found said that they saw the same man standing on the seawall looking at the suitcase before he got into his car and left. Video surveillance in the area captured a vehicle tag that led them to their suspect, Delray Beach resident William Lowe, and he had a wife that matched the name that came back from an airline scan code on one of the suitcases. Adil Barbosa Fontes matched the brief description of the remains found in the suitcase, and she shared the same address as Lowe. This led police to acquire a search warrant for the home of 78-year-old Lowe. In searching his home, police found blood spatter throughout the residence, including in the living room, dining room, and primary bathroom. There were also drag marks observed throughout the home, and cleaning supplies that contained blood splatter were found as well. While they were executing the search warrant, detectives said that Lowe attempted to re-enter through the back window, and when he was stopped, he just said he was trying to get his phone and the keys to his storage unit. A search of that storage unit uncovered a chainsaw that appeared to have blood and human hair on it. After all of this, Lowe was arrested on July 31st. During questioning, he reportedly said that his wife Adil had been in Brazil for about 3 weeks. But when questioned further about her trip, he did not know how she got to the airport, what airline she flew on, or the last time he spoke to her. When shown photos of the suitcases, Lowe reportedly said he had never seen them before. But police knew at least one of them belonged to his wife because of the airline tag that had her name connected to it. And when they asked Lowe about this, he just said, "I don't know." Day after Lowe's arrest, the victim found in the suitcases was positively identified through dental records as Adil Barbosa Fontes. ME declared the manner of death to be homicide and the cause of death to be a gunshot wound to the head. The next day, Lowe was charged with first-degree murder and abuse of a dead body. He was denied bail and he has not yet entered a plea, so he remains in prison until his next hearing. Hopefully, he will have to pay for what he did.
The relationship between Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift always felt a bit off. What if I told you that I think I have proof that this is not only a fake relationship, but a multi-level marketing insurance scheme? Now, if you watch the NFL, you notice a very specific commercial that plays at every single ad break. And no matter what the context of the ad is, it's always a State Farm ad. Now, we know that the NFL has a relationship with State Farm, and they've had one since about 2004, for over 20 years. But specifically, they've had one with the Kansas City Chiefs just over the last couple. And here is where things start to get weird. Now, we know that State Farm, like the rest of the country, is fully aware of the relationship between Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. But knowing something isn't capitalizing off of it. So one day, as a publicity stunt, Jake from State Farm linked up with Donna Kelce, Travis Kelce's mom, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It caught a lot of media attention, and nobody was really thinking anything of it. But I wanted to look into who set this up. And after just doing like a little bit of digging, it turns out that this media agency, Maximum Effort, was the ones who set this up. And their co-founder is Ryan Reynolds. So it was him that helped set up Donna Kelce with Jake from State Farm to help State Farm capitalize off the relationship between Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. And that one mistake opened up the floodgates into the rest of this investigation. You see, I started getting curious as to when this relationship first started, or even who first reported it. When I stumbled across this tweet that seems to be the earliest tweet talking about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's relationship, the one that broke the story. And then I saw this link, so I decided, let's just click it. And when I did, it brought me to this torn down URL website that read The Messenger. So I got curious and I wondered, what was The Messenger? And well, as it turns out, that The Messenger is the one who broke the news about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, and which I thought that was weird. So I looked into The Messenger, and it only turned out that they had only opened 4 months prior to breaking this news. And I was thinking to myself, how did a brand new publication have the inside scoop on the #1 pop star in the world? Somebody who spends millions of dollars a year on security. There's no way that this brand new publication got that inside scoop, until I looked into who owns The Messenger. And that's when I ran into a man named Jimmy Finkelstein, who owns and started the publication, who recently stole another publication for $130 million. But you see, the weirdest part about this publication, that it just broke this news about the world's biggest pop star just 4 months prior, 4 months after opening, is that only 4 months after that, they shut down completely, only lasting 8 months. So then I thought to myself, man, if I was Mr. Finkelstein, I'd be really angry. So I started looking up Mr. Finkelstein's statements on why the publication shut down, only to find out that it costed $50 million to start. Oh my God, I'd be so mad if it was $50 million that I used of my own money. That's the weird thing. See, it turned out after doing some digging that it was actually started by 5 donors that gave about $10 million each. First one is Josh Harris, or co-founder of Apollo Global, an investment firm that manages over $600 billion in assets. And it was his company who back in 2016 acquired ADT for about $7 billion. And then in 2022, State Farm acquired 15% equity ownership worth $1.2 billion in ADT. And I can go on and on about the other 4 founders that started the publication that got the inside scoop that's only 4 months old, that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce were together. But no matter what road you take, they all have invested interest in hundreds of billions of dollars in State Farm. And that's not even the craziest part. See, every time I Googled Finkelstein, a woman named Pamela Gross Finkelstein would pop up. And the name next to it, every single time, was Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds' wife and best friends with Taylor Swift. So you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, State Farm gains a lot out of this. They get free publication, they get Taylor Swift, they get the NFL, they get Travis Kelce. But what does Taylor Swift and the NFL get out of being possibly a part in all this? Well, while I was researching for another video, I had noticed that every single time I had clicked on Taylor Swift's music video, no matter which one it was, a State Farm ad would play behind it every single time, which is very strange, because if you know anything about YouTube advertisement, is that you know it's always supposed to be completely random. So here is my theory. I think State Farm and the NFL approached the biggest pop star in the world and said, hey, we need to make more money. Taylor Swift came back and said, okay, cool, but how are we gonna push that to the public? She then brought the idea to Ryan Reynolds, absolute marketing genius, who also owns a marketing agency, and he came up with a absolute game-changing plan. You gotta make people care here. So he set up Jake from State Farm with Donna Kelce, and then the wheels started turning. Ryan then brought that whole idea to his wife, Blake Lively, and she said, hey, wait, I think I know a guy. Yeah, I became good friends with this billionaire's wife back a couple years ago in 2011 when she came to a party of mine to honor me. The wife had nothing to lose, so Blake, Ryan, the wife, and Taylor Swift all brought it to this dude and said, hey, we need somebody to put this out there. And he said, hey, I sold my company for $130 million months ago. I mean, yeah, sure, I'll do it, but I'm not gonna do it with my own money. State Farm then said, and we can help with that. 5 founders then got together and created The Messenger. 4 months later, they then organically threw this out there. 4 months after that, he played his role and he just shut this down. Taylor then possibly approached State Farm, or State Farm then possibly approached Taylor and said, hey, there's literally no way I'd be able to pay you this amount of money up front. You are way too big of an artist. Instead, why don't you just let us put our ad in front of every single one of your videos? We'll give you about 90 to 100% of the ad revenue. You'll get paid throughout the entire time that we have your ads on our videos. and will be promoted. And so now you might be asking, okay, cool, all these people gain so much, but the main player here is the NFL. So what do they gain in doing any of this? The NFL has made about $1 billion since Travis and Taylor started dating due to viewership and jersey sales. And since in 2010, the NFL had changed from a sports league to an entertainment company as to cover any legal corners. So what would hurt putting them through the playoffs to the Super Bowl to keep the viewership high all season long because of Taylor? Well, the answer is nothing. But maybe it's just all one big theory.
He went hella deep right there. Honestly, we're about to check that out right now. Let's see if we click on a Taylor Swift video. I can't play it because then I'm gonna get copyrighted. But let's see if we click on any Taylor Swift song video, if a State Farm ad really pops up. All right, let's see, guys. Click on style. Nothing pops up. Click on the next one. Nothing pops up. Click on the next one. This is my lucky day because I got 0 ads. Not really getting any ads, honestly. I'll probably do it later and see if it happens. I don't think. You guys try it out. You try it out. Put it in the comments. Let me know what you think because I didn't really get any ads, which is surprising because YouTube loves to add people. I also think that relationships being implemented has been a thing for a minute. I feel like a lot of influencers do it, and it's really good television because I don't know why, but the human brain is just always so interested in other people's relationships. It's actually very interesting. So I could see why it could be very good for publicity towards the company they're trying to promote and towards, I guess, their own fame or whatever. But at the end of the day, I feel like even if it was a setup for them to both become famous or get more money, whatever, I feel like eventually they kind of fell for each other. You know what I'm saying? That's usually what ends up happening. But I feel like robots learning how to fight is the last thing we want right now.
Donald Trump has warned that America's monster nuclear weapons could be deployed as soon as tomorrow. The B-83 is the most powerful weapon in the United States nuclear arsenal, capable of unleashing destruction on a scale never seen before. With a payload 75 times more powerful than the nuke detonated over Hiroshima, everybody within 210 square miles of the detonation zone would be instantly killed, and millions more would die later of radiation-related illness.
I don't know about y'all, but the last thing I want is for Trump to drop a nuclear weapon right now. That's the last thing we need, is a nuke dropped on Earth right now.
Strange videos that will creep you out. Just a couple weeks ago, a security camera in a bar in a small town in England captured something on camera that is leaving people really confused. The footage shows a man sitting at the bar talking to a few bartenders. Nothing seems out of the ordinary until you look at his drink. Seemingly out of nowhere, his drink gets pushed over, and if you watch it again in slow motion, it seems to be pushed by something. The bar in this video is over 167 years old, and the store owner claims that his restaurant's been haunted for as long as he can remember. What do you guys think? Comment below.
You won't believe how much unseen footage there is of Ruby Franke and everything she did not want us to see in Hulu's new docuseries Devil in the Family: The Fall of Ruby Franke. In this new series, raw footage has been exposed that never made it on her YouTube channel. We will be hearing from her 2 eldest children and her husband.
Fake being happy. Okay? I don't know if I can right now.
This 3-part series exposes various moments where Ruby becomes extremely abusive towards her children, forcing them to say and do things that they didn't feel comfortable with, only for the purpose of filming content for her channel. It's very unsettling, and it makes you wonder how bad it must have been at home when the cameras were off. Now, things only got worse when Ruby met Jodi Hildebrandt, and everything took a very dark turn. As their relationship got stronger, Ruby and Jodi began believing these crazy conspiracies that the world was going to end, and that Jodi was the chosen one. And they talk about it on the 3-part series Devil in the Family: The Fall of Ruby Franke, which is now out on Hulu.
Here are the craziest things to ever happen at Walmart. So one day, an 18-year-old was craving milk. So he decided to steal not 1, not 2, but 26 gallons of milk from Walmart. Oh, and he did this dressed as a cow. And if that doesn't sound weird enough to you, you'd be surprised to learn that even though he made himself stand out in the cow costume, he managed to not get caught on the spot. Next, on Black Friday in 2013, a customer and his son were freaking out in Walmart because they thought that his ex-wife was possessed by a demon. And so they locked her in their car and set up an exorcism in the parking lot by throwing sacred oil at her, which might have been the reason why they ended up divorcing. Also, back in 2013, a 16-year-old was going into labor, and she gave birth in a Cannon City Walmart bathroom. Now, there was panic for a moment because the baby wasn't breathing, but luckily, one of the store's employees were CPR certified and they revived the baby. I guess Walmart really can help you live better. And finally, in 2011, at a Walmart in South Carolina, customers witnessed a man named Avery Blandon end the life of his wife, Lilia Blandon, while she was working inside the store's bank. Avery stabbed her multiple times and she sadly passed away on the way to the hospital. He then tried to escape the scene, but he crashed his SUV and was caught by police. But what's weird is that the store stayed open during the investigation, only in Walmart.
Why would that guy need 26 gallons of milk? If you really think about it, probably 20 of those are gonna expire because like milk expires quick. You know what I'm saying? So I think he was just trolling. I mean, he came in with a cow costume, so he was probably obviously just trolling.
You won't be able to stare at this image.
Greatest conspiracy theories of all time, Part 4. The Grinch has a well-known backstory about hating Christmas. However, eventually in the movie, his heart grows 3 sizes and he loves Christmas once again. But this story may continue longer than we think. It is clear that the Grinch isn't exactly right in the head, but during one of the Grinch's wacky stunts, he could have gotten a head injury. This injury would later take a toll on him as he grew old and caused him to lose his memory. After him and his dog died, they were given a new life in a realm called Halloween Town, where they now lived as Jack Skellington and Zero. He later reunites with his love for Christmas, just like he had when he was alive. Both eventually wear a Santa suit, both deliver presents, and both have a dog companion. It may be possible that How the Grinch Stole Christmas and The Nightmare Before Christmas are tied together.
Morbid Facts, Part 545. Last year, Wisconsin elementary school teacher Madison Bergman faced 10 felony charges for having an inappropriate relationship with her 5th grade student. Investigators were shown disturbing screenshots of their text conversations, in which Bergman would talk about how much she enjoyed making out with the young student. The two also exchanged over 100 letters, love notes, and artwork over several months. She was reportedly still graping him up to 3 months before she was supposed to get married to her fiancé. Bergman has pleaded not guilty to all 10 counts. Ohio sex worker Linda Lassess prompted a multi-state public health alert after police discovered she'd slept with more than 200 clients while knowing she was HIV positive. Officers worked hard to contact her clients and suggest getting tested so they could seek the proper treatment. Randy Woodfield was drafted by the NFL to play for the Green Bay Packers in 1974, but was soon cut from the team due to a series of indecent exposure arrests. He would go on to become the I-5 killer and is believed to have been responsible for over 40 murders throughout the early 1980s.
So you like anything creepy, but have you heard of the case of Celine Delgado? There is a television network in Spanish called Canal 5, and they had a segment called Al Servicio a la Comunidad. This segment would come on around midnight, and it would show missing people from the 90s to 2000s. In 2001, a photo of a missing girl named Celine Delgado Lopez, who was 18, showed up on this segment. There wasn't much information about this girl besides her name, age, and location of where she had went missing, which was in Mexico City. Some people found this odd because other people who were listed as missing on this segment had a full bio with greater detail. Viewers started to feel uneasy while watching this segment because as soon as her photo popped up on the screen, the TV channel freezes for a few moments and then this happens.
Selene Delgado López se ignora su paradero desde el 28 de mayo del año 2000.
right? Fast forward to 2020 and there was a Facebook page with the name Celine Delgado Lopez. Many users who were familiar with this missing girl started to freak out because they realized that they were already added as her friend and couldn't remember adding her in the first place or even accepting the request. To make matters worse, they didn't even have the option to unfriend her, and many started to think that this Facebook page was haunted by Celine Delgado, while others thought it was just a complete hoax. Let me know what you guys think about this.
If I'm being honest, animatronics don't creep me out that much. I know a lot of people in real life that don't like animatronics, mostly when that Five Nights at Freddy's game came out. But for me personally, it doesn't really like trip me up that much. It's just like...
Here are the strangest things that were found in the middle of nowhere. Back in 2014, two German friends were walking through a forest that they used to play in as kids, when suddenly they noticed two pipes sticking out of the ground. They continued to walk until they stumbled upon a hidden doorway that went underground. They entered the creepy corridors until they stumbled into a room that was flooded and had a weird looking machine. That's when they realized they were in an abandoned control bunker that was used by the Soviets during the Cold War. Next, in 2016, a group was flying in a helicopter over the forests of West Russia, and they spotted another helicopter that was abandoned in a swamp. This turned out to be an Mi-6 model that originated in 1956, and it was the largest and fastest helicopter at the time. It was revealed that the helicopter had been there since 1981, when it traveled from Moscow and it crashed because of engine failure. But thankfully, the crew of it did live to tell the tale. And finally, on Route 90 in Texas, you can find a Prada store that's surrounded by nothing but desert. This was actually art that was made back in 2005 and cost $120,000 to make. Inside the store, there's even real products from their 2005 Prada collection. But unfortunately, the doors aren't real, so you can't actually buy them.
This new true crime docuseries is so creepy and bizarre, and it had me hooked from the moment it started. This is like Unsolved Mysteries meets X-Files, and it might be the greatest thing I've seen all year. Out There, Crimes of the Paranormal features 8 true crime stories that have some strange and creepy connection to something paranormal. If you love documentaries, make sure to hit follow because I post daily and you'll never miss out on what to watch. Whether it's someone getting drove to madness from believing in something paranormal like lizard people and committing a horrific crime, or people blaming things like murders on something paranormal like witches. It's fascinating and yet very scary, and I think a part of the reason why it's so scary is because the filmmakers did a really good job of grounding the series in reality. Out There, Crimes of the Paranormal is releasing exclusively on Hulu, so if you want to see this, make sure to head over there and check it out. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments.
People are freaking out realizing what happened on this film. Whatever you do, do not watch it. There's a lot of disturbing films out there you've probably all heard about. The reason this is so disturbing is because it's real and because of what happened. This movie released in 1980 and was instantly banned in many countries. Essentially found footage. They find this tape which contains all of these videos on it which are messed up. I'm going to say the name, it will get taken down, but that's it. Shortly after the movie came out, the director was arrested and actually charged. Let me explain. Basically, the movie was so realistic, the scenes in it actually looked like it was real life. Now, I'm not going to talk about the things that happened, but you can probably guess it's pretty brutal. There's lots of things that involve animals, humans, and stuff I can't even talk about. When it came out, many critics and people viewing it thought it was genuinely real. Rogetto Diodato, the director, was arrested and eventually actually charged with murder, saying that he had actually unalived the crew who were the actors in the film. They were able to prove that all of the people who were in the film, the actors, etc., were perfectly fine and he was let off. It was a film, no one was actually unalived. But unfortunately, the things that happened to animals in the film was real, like they were actually extremely harmed during the making of the film. Some problems there, and this has of course caused a lot of controversy over the years. A lot of people still say that this movie is cursed, and if you watch it, you're watching real stuff happen. It's definitely an extremely disturbing watch, so I don't recommend it.
I have real tears in my eyes right now. People always say, like, Appalachia, #1 rule, you don't go out after dark, right? Even I know that. They say you don't look to the woods. That's cardinal rule, right? You don't know what's looking back. Found this video, I'm gonna play it for you. It's not even really a video, it's more of like an audio clip of somebody who was in the woods at night. He recorded, the only way I could describe it was disembodied screaming throughout the forest.
Animals with Down syndrome.
Run, run, run. Run, run, run.
Morbid Facts, Part 546. In 1983, Carla Faye Tucker murdered a couple with a pickaxe while attempting to rob them, striking each of them more than 20 times and later saying she felt a sexual thrill with each blow. Tucker was sentenced to death for her crimes, but after converting to Christianity during her time in prison, there was a worldwide campaign to spare her life, even involving Pope John Paul II and the brother of one of her victims. However, Texas Governor George Bush ultimately blocked the appeal, saying, "The gender of the murderer did not make a difference to the victims," and Tucker was executed by lethal injection in 1998. South Carolina woman Mary Wilson was using her blow dryer when she suddenly passed out with her hand on top of it. The dryer continued blowing hot air directly onto her skin for at least 20 minutes, causing third-degree burns all the way to the bone. Wilson was rushed to the hospital, where doctors found nerve damage so severe they had to amputate her entire hand. The yellow outline is the size of SeaWorld's parking lot. The green dot is where orcas will spend their entire lives.
Their intellectually disabled daughter had a baby with her brother, and they were okay with it. In June of 2024, the Oklahoma Department of Human Services contacted the Molden family regarding an 18-year-old disabled girl who had just delivered a baby. The father of the baby couldn't be established because at first she stated that her father was the father of the baby, but that ended up not being true. The girl and her mother Tamika claimed that she had a boyfriend and he was the father of the baby, but they were never able to provide a name. Police knew that something wasn't adding up, so they collected a DNA from all the male members of the household. Once testing was done, it was confirmed that the girl's brother, 19-year-old Nathaniel Molden Jr., was the father of the baby. During an interview with police, Nathaniel Jr. had admitted to being intimate with his sister for up to 2 years before the baby was born. He also told investigators that his parents had caught them but never reported it. Nathaniel Jr. is being held in the Oklahoma County Detention Center on 1 count of incest. As for the girl's parents, they were placed in custody on child neglect charges but have posted bail and have been released. As for that girl, the Department of Human Services took custody of her and her newborn.
I wonder how the child came out, because I'm pretty sure they'd be saying that, like, when you have an incestual child, the child has, like, a lot of problems.
This is why it's always a bad idea to go to graveyards at night. Urban explorer Frank from Franco TV explored a graveyard in Peru. As he explores the area, he sees a group of people far in the corner. Not knowing what's going on and worried for his safety, he hides in a tomb waiting for them to leave. 30 minutes gone by, they turn off the lights and begin to leave. Scared someone may still be there, Frank waits 30 more minutes. As he makes his way to the tomb, what he finds is disturbing. Frank finds a circle of candles and what looks like a voodoo doll next to a star. He also finds a container with unknown contents. As Frank tries to communicate with the spirits in that area, he hears laughing coming from one of the graves. Worried for his safety, he decides to leave and says he doesn't want any problems or to be followed by anything there. As Frank makes his way out, he sees something horrifying. What looks like a person can be seen peeking at Frank from the corner of the tomb. But when he checks around the tomb, there's no one there.
So Amy Slayton from TLC's 1,000 Pound Sisters was just arrested, and the way she was arrested is an actual fever dream. Like, honestly, I feel bad because if this goes the wrong way, she could lose custody of her children. So on Labor Day, Amy Slayton, her boyfriend, and 2 children went to a safari park in Alamo, Tennessee. It's basically like a drive-through zoo where you can feed the animals and pet them if they let you. We don't know exactly how it went down yet, but sources are saying that Amy was bit by one of the camels. I don't know if the injury was so bad that Amy called the police or if it's just the park's policy to call the authorities anytime someone is bit by an animal, but the police were called, and when they approached Amy's car, they immediately smelled some green flour, if you know what I mean. And when the authorities looked inside, they allegedly saw the flour and some special mushrooms in plain sight. Amy and her boyfriend Brian Lavorne faced charges of illegal possession of Schedule 1 and Schedule 6. And because the children were in the car, they also faced 2 counts of child endangerment. We know that the children are safe and staying with Amy's family members. But Tennessee's Child Protective Services are still investigating, so this could end very badly for Amy. And as of now, I'm pretty sure Amy is still in the Crockett County Jail on a $10,000 bond. I am unaware if Thousand Pound Sisters is even filming right now, but if you are, let me know in the comments.
This is Brittany Drexel, and in April 2009, she was on a spring break trip in South Carolina with some friends when she went missing. And since then, there have been no leads in her disappearance and believed homicide. Brittany was 18 years old in April 2009, and she wanted to go on a spring break trip to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina with her boyfriend and some of her girlfriends. But when Brittany asked her mother if she could go, her mother said no because she didn't know any of the other teenagers going with them and there were no adults accompanying them on the trip. This led to an argument between Brittany and her mother that lasted for several days. Eventually, on April 22nd, Brittany asked her mother if she could go over to a friend's house for a couple of days to kind of calm down. Her mother agreed and Brittany left, but instead of going to a friend's house, she went down to South Carolina. A few days after arriving at Myrtle Beach, Brittany called her mother and let her know that she was at the beach, but her mother assumed that she meant a beach trip to the shoreline of Lake Ontario. So her mother, Dawn, was not alarmed at the fact that Brittany said she was at the beach and still had no idea she was actually down in South Carolina. That evening, around 8 p.m., Brittany left the Bar Harbor Hotel where she was staying with her friends to walk to another hotel to meet up with an old friend that was down there. This was about a 1.5-mile walk from the hotel where Brittany was staying with her friends. And security cameras at this other hotel, the Blue Water Resort, show Brittany entering and then leaving at 8:45 p.m. After leaving that hotel, Brittany was texting her boyfriend, who was actually still back in Rochester, where he had to stay because of work commitments. At 9:15 p.m., the text from Brittany suddenly stopped, and her boyfriend became extremely worried. He called their friends down in Myrtle Beach, but nobody knew where Brittany was. After that, Brittany's boyfriend called her mother, Dawn, to let her know what was going on. The search for Brittany began the next day, and in her hotel room, police found the clothes that she had packed, but not her purse or cell phone. This is the area where Brittany disappeared from, and they were searching in this area. Police were also able to track her cell phone pings, and they actually led down a path about 50 to 60 miles south of Myrtle Beach. And then the pings suddenly stopped. After that, areas near where the cell phone ping stopped and all around Myrtle Beach were searched. But no sign of Brittany was found and police were never able to identify a suspect. And then in June 2016, police announced a new lead in Brittany's case, and that's where I'll start with part 2.
The man who killed Brittany Drexel in 2009 is now claiming that his longtime girlfriend was involved in the kidnapping, essay, and murder. In a new interview with police, Raymond Moody is claiming that Angel Cooper Voss was involved in the whole thing. On April 25th, 2009, 17-year-old Brittany Drexel left the hotel that she was staying at in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where she had been staying with her friends over spring break. She was seen leaving the hotel and walking to another hotel just a short distance away, and then from there she texted her boyfriend to say that she was heading back to her hotel, and that was the last time she was known to be alive. Unfortunately, she was not found at the time and her case quickly went cold. However, in 2016, it was announced that a prison informant had told police that Brittany had been abducted and killed. The man accused by the informant denied any knowledge of this alleged crime, but with this, the case was officially classified by the FBI as a homicide. And then finally, in 2022, 13 years after Brittany disappeared, an arrest was made. 62-year-old Raymond Moody turned himself in to the Georgetown County Sheriff's Office on the basis of an obstruction of justice charge. Police had first considered Moody a person of interest in Drexel's disappearance as early as 2012, but over the years, they had nothing to definitively connect him. Moody ended up confessing to the crime and even provided the location of potential remains. The FBI excavated the site over the next 3 days, and by mid-May, human remains were located, buried in the woods off a gated private drive outside of Georgetown. And on May 15th, 2022, the remains were identified as Brittany's through DNA and dental records. After 13 years, she had finally been found, and her killer had been caught. Moody was subsequently charged with murder, kidnapping, and first-degree criminal misconduct, all alleged to have occurred on the day that Brittany disappeared. On October 19th, 2022, Raymond Moody pleaded guilty to all charges and was sentenced to life in prison with an additional 2 consecutive terms of 30 years. But now, according to federal investigators, Moody has told the FBI that his longtime girlfriend, Angel Cooper Voss, was involved in his plot to kidnap, SA, and murder Brittany. He reportedly made this confession in a deal to ensure that part of his property remains in a trust for Voss's grandchildren. This interview took place at the Lieber Correctional Institution in Ridgeville in November 2024. In this revelation, Moody claimed that Voss was not only present at the time of Brittany's murder, but was also an integral part of the plot to kidnap and SA her. And with this confession, more details about what happened to Brittany have come out. So Moody alleged that Voss helped lure Brittany to their vehicle by acting as tourists who were lost and offering her a ride home. He said that Voss held on to the vehicle steering wheel while he restrained Brittany and helped lead her to a tent where they had previously set up in the Pole Yard boat landing in Georgetown, which was nearby their apartment. He alleged that Voss then went to get the keys to their apartment and instructed Moody not to SA Brittany until she returned. Moody claimed that he and Voss previously agreed to SA Brittany together, with it being Voss's idea the night before to, quote, go hunting for a young woman that they could kidnap and SA. Moody claimed that he didn't recall Voss taking part in the SA, but that she was present in the tent during the attack. He also alleged that Voss wasn't aware of his plan to kill Brittany, although she was in the tent during the murder and allegedly didn't attempt to stop him. Moody told investigators that he strangled Brittany with a nylon rope before stabbing her heart with an ice pick. He then buried her body alone because he was concerned that Voss was going to tell authorities about the murder. FBI investigators said, quote, Moody emphasized that he is telling the truth, not to be spiteful to Voss, but because he wants to take care of his grandchildren. Angel Cooper Voss was actually arrested last March on 3 counts of making false statements to the FBI, all pertaining to Brittany's case, and she pleaded guilty last September to all 3 counts. So she remains in jail, and it is unclear if she will face more charges with these new allegations. I can't imagine what Brittany's family is going through after already going through all of this with Moody being arrested so many years later, and then now having to go through this all again with potential charges against Voss. But if Voss was involved, then she deserves to also spend life in prison, and Brittany deserves justice. Rest in peace, Brittany.
Beverly Hills Sanatorium. This is a place in Kentucky where very few people will still dare to venture. There is a lot of that has to do with just how twisted the history is. One of the darkest stories that ever came out of the sanatorium were the stories of the body chutes. This is very much real, and it was beneath the building. What it was, and as you can see, is it was basically a tunnel system that was constructed at the height of patient death. There were so many patients dying, at least one every single hour, that they had to figure out a way to get rid of all the bodies. In that underground system, they built a 500-foot-long tunnel. That tunnel had a conveyor belt where they were just funneling bodies out of the building. It is truly considered to be one of the most haunted places in the United States, and for sure in Kentucky. Which is why when I go to Kentucky, I always have my Kentucky After Dark passport. This thing is truly something that you can take with you to basically every paranormal haunted stop.
Yo, what the hell is that After Dark passport? You tell me I go to like the haunted asylum I went to the other day, and I'm just like, hey, yo, I got my haunted pass. They're gonna be like, oh, okay, you good, bro,
What are some of the scariest things that have been caught on camera? Part 5. On the evening of July 21st, 2021, a doorbell camera at a Los Angeles home captured one of the most disturbing scenes I've ever seen. At around 8 p.m., the young woman at the house was preparing dinner while waiting for her husband to return home from work. It was a very hot day, so she decided to open the window and let the evening breeze in. This caught the attention of a man on the sidewalk, and as he looked at the young woman, he decided to try and get a little closer.
I just rang your doorbell because I have a couple questions for you. Are you sure? Are you positive? Are you sure? I just have a couple questions for you.
He continuously repeats the same sentences as he rings the doorbell and knocks on the door, claiming to only have a few questions. The woman never responded to the man and claims she'd never seen him until that point. As he's walking away, her husband comes on the doorbell speaker asking who he is, and that's when he reveals his true intentions.
Are you sure?
Who are you?
Hey, I just had a couple questions. I just wanted to ask you about Navy SEAL. I want to rape her and kill her because I have a knife and a gun. Yeah, and I'm going to knock on her door again.
Thankfully, none of his fantasies played out as he walked away for good. Soon after, he was arrested a few blocks away, and when asked for his name, he claimed to be the Holy Spirit. It was later found that his real name was Christopher Sums, and a background check found that he had an impressive job history and was actually a normal person not too long ago. What caused this rapid change in appearance and personality is unknown, but the footage captured that night will continue to haunt the internet.
On the afternoon of June 4th, 2005, two friends, 22-year-old Henri Murray and 23-year-old Pete Van Niekerk, decided to do some spearfishing off of Miller's Point, which is in False Bay, South Africa. The two young men put on their dive equipment. They're not allowed to scuba dive, so just snorkeling equipment. And then they swam out in the water about 200 meters off of shore till they were in about 6 meters depth of water. So maybe just over 20 feet deep of water. At some point, Henri, he spots a fish, he spears it, and then the two men are swimming back up on the surface with their secured fish when all of a sudden, Niekerk hears his friend, Henri, yell out, "Hey, there's a shark, we need to get out of here." Well, Pete, he looks, and sure enough, there is a massive great white shark swimming on the ocean floor right beneath them. So the two men, they begin to swim towards shore, hoping to avoid the shark's attention. But unfortunately, they are not able to avoid the shark's attention for long. There are several people watching from the beach at this point. One of them, whose name was Dave, will come into the story here in just a bit. But several people watching from the beach and a jetty, and then you have the two young men swimming in the water trying to escape this shark. Well, the shark breaches the water in between Pete and Henri. It's unclear how far the two men were away from each other, but the shark comes up out of the water right in between them, and then it begins to lunge and bite at Henri. Now, at this point, Henri, he takes his spear gun and he's jabbing at the shark, and he's able to fend it off twice. It comes back twice, biting at him, and he's able to spear this shark. Well, not spear it, but hit it with his spear gun and deter it. Unfortunately, the third time the shark came back, this was not the case. The shark came back from behind him and kind of underneath him and grabbed him by the legs and swallowed him all the way up to his chest. So his arms were pinned inside the shark's mouth as well. So he's almost completely inside of this shark. And the shark lifts him up out of the water as Pete watches in horror, and the people from the beach are watching this too. That guy Dave, who was watching from shore, said that this shark must have been nearly 20 feet long or over 6 meters to be able to swallow this man like that almost completely. So it swallows Henri almost completely. It slams him back down onto the water, and then it just disappears with him in its mouth. Pete obviously can't do anything. He's able to swim back to shore successfully. There are some reports saying that he tried to spear the shark at some point, but this was unsuccessful or did not deter the animal, whether or not that's true. Anyways, he makes it back to shore. They launch several search attempts with police divers and everything. The only thing that they're ever able to find is part of his torn wetsuit and part of his weight belt and I think his snorkel and spear gun. So it's assumed that Henri was swallowed entirely by this shark.
See, Drewski and Odell Beckham Jr. had a problem. If you don't know who they are, Drewski is a comedian, Odell Beckham Jr., football player. Anyway, they were both named in a court document along with Diddy. That's already bad, but well, it gets worse. In the court document, it says that both of them, along with Diddy, did terrible things to a woman at Diddy's house. Now, people are already saying Drewski guilty because he seemed to be associated with Diddy in the past, shooting videos and all that. Odell Beckham Jr. also seen with Diddy in the past. And it's because of this when Diddy got arrested and the whole fiasco happened, while Drewski was on several podcasts, they asked him, "Hey, have you been to a Diddy party?" And in each podcast, Drewski starts laughing. Ha 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 ha. They looking at him like, Well, then Drewski tells him, but look, I haven't been to one of those Diddy parties. So again, people are saying, oh, Drewski was nervous, definitely guilty. All right, now here's where it starts to get wicked. Some of the allegations in this court document are absolutely insane. Prepare yourself. For instance, one of the lines reads out in reference to Drewski. Instead of immediately doing something terrible to the woman, Drewski douses the woman with more oil, you know, Diddy and his baby oil, and then jumps on her oiled body, treating it like a slip and slide and knocking the wind out of the woman due to his enormous size, due to Drewski's enormous size. Because of some of the wording, people claim that this document is fake. But from what I've researched, this document seems like a legit document that was filed with the Northern District of California. And maybe, this is a complete guess, the lawyer worded it this way to put you in the situation. You know, Drewski's a comedian. So maybe you could see Drewski like pretend he's on a slip and slide, you know what I'm saying? Now, after Drewski allegedly did his slip and slide thing, he allegedly then did something terrible to her while Diddy watched. Afterwards, Odell Beckham did the same. They leave. Now, I feel like it's also important to tell you what happened directly afterwards. So according to the document, the woman then gets up, goes outside, and she has a confrontation with Diddy. Diddy tells her, yo, keep it down. We know where you live. Some other guy, who we're going to call guy number one, pops up and shows her a picture of her house. Diddy then allegedly says, and I also be getting away with everything, like what happened to Tupac. Allegedly, guy number one, who's showing her the phone, turns around and says, what'd you just say about Tupac? Diddy goes, huh? Allegedly, guy number one pulls out a ting. The woman, the victim of the story, allegedly grabs and a shot was fired. A neighbor pokes his head in and says, what's going on? Guy number one points his ting at the neighbor and says, boy, you better step. Now, I say all this because it's important to note that there are allegedly witnesses. So if this really happened, then they can get some proof. Drewski says, well, that's well and good, but that whole story happened in 2018. He says he was living in his mama's house, he was broke, and he had no connections to the entertainment industry. So basically, Drewski saying never happened. Now, those pictures, those videos I showed you earlier when he was connected and associated with Diddy, 2021. Now, do what you want with that information. But regardless, Odell Beckham says the same thing. He says the whole thing is cap. Now, regardless, people could speculate, people can guess, but not enough information is available. It's just not. But when more information is available, you know, I'm gonna let you know.
That's crazy, man. Like, I don't know. I mean, I could believe, you know what I'm saying, the things that Diddy be doing, because, you know what I'm saying, like, he definitely got away with it. Like, I feel like he would be the type of dude to say, like, yeah, I get away with everything. So I wouldn't doubt that, but I don't know, bro. You never really know until you know. I guess, what do they say? Innocent until proven guilty. So you never really know. But what do you think? Do you think that this story that woman is saying is true about what happened at that Diddy mansion that day? It's just so weird to just say the word Diddy nowadays. It just comes with such a funny connotation because of the weirdness that went on at his place.
So you think life on a submarine is just like a scene from a war movie? Yeah, no. Here's what they don't tell you about living in a metal tube under the ocean for months at a time. For starters, no sunlight, no problem. First off, say goodbye to the sun. You wake up, it's dark. You go to sleep, it's dark. Your body clock, absolutely destroyed. You're running on an 18-hour day, not to mention the time on watch, you got 12 hours off. And half of that off time, yeah, you're either maintaining gear or trying to fall asleep next to a running nuclear reactor. When it comes to the smell, just accept it. Imagine being locked up in a tin can with 100 other dudes and no fresh air. The smell? It's like a mix of diesel, BO, and whatever's rotting away in the galley sink. Showering? Optional. Deodorant? It's essential to the mission. Next up, you'll learn to hot rack like a pro. You ever shared a bed with another grown man without actually sharing it? Welcome to hot racking. You sleep in a rack while the other guy works, and then you swap. Your mattress is basically a communal timeshare, and I hope you like the smell of someone else's regret. The food is surprisingly good. Believe it or not, submarine food is some of the best in the Navy, because keeping morale up when you're trapped in a glorified sewer pipe means feeding the crew like kings, until you run out of food, and then it's straight up prison rations. And last, privacy. What's that? You think berthings on a surface ship is bad? Try living in a space where the only privacy you get is turning your back while changing in the hallway. Personal space? It no longer exists.
This is a true story about a man who decided to explore the world's deepest cave but faced a tragedy due to a small mistake. The map indicated that the PSG team had left several camps inside the cave, so carrying only essential equipment, he entered the Veryovkina cave alone. Sergei quickly descended to the first supply point, where he enjoyed the food left by previous explorers. However, he soon realized a fatal problem. He had forgotten the climbing stirrups. His only options were to wait for rescue or try to climb out on his own. But no one knew he was there, and the cave was rarely visited. In the following days, Sergei tried various ways to climb, but due to the cave's depth, it was almost impossible to do so using only his hands and ropes. As the supplies ran out, he became increasingly weak. After 6 days of despair, Sergei decided to descend further, hoping to find climbing equipment and food at the next supply point. Perhaps then he could make his way back to the cave's entrance, located 1,000 meters above. Unfortunately, when he reached the new camp, he found no equipment or food. Surrounded by darkness, humidity, extreme cold, hunger, and exhaustion, his only option for survival was to keep going down. He knew there was another supply point about 300 meters below. Although completely drained, his will to survive was unshakable. As he descended, the cave's humidity levels reached extremes. At 100%, in some sections, waterfalls poured directly onto him. His cotton climbing clothes were clearly inadequate for such conditions. What happened in the next 20 meters remains a mystery. After Sergei failed to return on time, his wife grew worried and wanted to call the authorities, but she didn't know where he was. 9 months later, in August 2020, a TST team returned to the cave to map the area. They noticed a new rope at the entrance. When they descended to the first camp, they found a set of trekking poles and an ice axe, clear signs that someone had been there. Moving further down to the next camp, they found more evidence, and finally, about 10 meters deeper, they discovered Sergei's body. He had been there for a long time. The team was shocked. They retrieved Sergei's phone and confirmed his identity through the photos and messages. However, there was a major challenge. It was impossible to remove his body in one piece due to the difficulties of the rescue. After securing funding and his wife's permission, the team cut the body into smaller pieces and transported it out of the cave in stages. To prevent similar tragedies from happening again, the PSD team decided to prohibit anyone from entering the cave.
The most disturbing things ever said by astronauts. In 2003, Chinese astronaut Yang Liwei was the first person from China to go to space. He was sent up all alone when suddenly, at one point during the mission, he hears a knocking sound on the outside of his spaceship. He recalls it as someone knocking the body of the spaceship, like hitting an iron bucket with a wooden hammer. He wasn't even able to recreate it, and to this day, experts have no idea what it could have been. During the Apollo 11 mission in 1969, when Neil and Buzz were on the lunar surface, Neil Armstrong unexpectedly switches to a medical communication channel and spoke directly to the chief medical officer, saying, and I quote, "They're here, they're parked on the side of the crater, they're watching us." This was revealed in a documentary by former NASA employee Ken Johnston, but the original recordings are of course highly classified. Rumored to be a part of the infamous Apollo 11 missing 2 minutes, where on record Mission Control lost radio contact with the astronauts due to technical difficulties. In another 1995 documentary interview, former NASA astronaut Franklin Story Musgrave claimed to have been followed by a white 8-foot-long snake floating through space, saying, quote, "On 2 of my missions, and I still don't have an answer, I have seen a snake out there, 6, 7, 8 feet long. He said it appeared rubbery and followed him for quite a long time, floating in or near Earth's stratosphere." In the same interview, Musgrave also cryptically states that other civilizations have been around for millions of years that are doing unimaginable kinds of things. But you know, they were probably all just joking.
If you had a choice to go to space, would you do it? I feel like going to space is on par with going to like the deep ocean.
Putin is fully unleashing the Russian military on Ukraine. Putin's response to a 30-day ceasefire was a complete Russian military annihilation of the Ukrainian forces in Kursk last night. And then he showed up in full military uniform in Kursk to discuss operations with his generals. And within the past hour, they have liberated this green area from Ukrainian occupation. Putin announced that the Ukrainians are 86% out of the Kursk region. Just 2 weeks ago, Zelensky suggested exchanging the Kursk region for Ukrainian territory. And in just 1 week, the Russians were able to retake this entire area. The Russians say that a 30-day ceasefire is not going to happen because all the West wants to do is rearm Ukraine. And there is a little truth to that, as the US has restored full military aid to Ukraine and the EU an $800 billion aid package to go. It is worth noting that Zelensky himself has said that Ukraine will not give up any Russian-occupied territory. Putin responded by essentially saying, "Come get it then," and then proceeded to ramp up military operations and buff up the border. Putin also says any Ukrainians found in Russian territory will be classified as terrorists and not given quarter.
They've been talking about a ceasefire for minutes. Like, what happened? I thought Trump said he completely cut aid to Ukraine. Like, did he go back on it?
So perfect as a great and cherished state
keeping "O Canada," the national anthem. I love it. I think it's great. Keep it. But it'll be for the state, one of our greatest states. Maybe our greatest state.
Back in 1973, Stanford University ran an experiment where they sent 8 mentally healthy patients to a mental hospital. All 8 patients were told to tell their doctors that they were hearing voices and seeing hallucinations. But once they got accepted into the mental hospital, they were told to act completely normal. The people in charge of this experiment did not tell the hospital or staff that they were running the experiment. After 7 days of all 8 patients being in the mental hospital, all of them were diagnosed with serious mental disorders. In fact, all 8 patients were diagnosed with either schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, even though the entire time they acted completely normal. Stanford University published their findings challenging the validity of diagnosing psychiatric disorders. When the hospital heard about this, they asked Stanford to perform the experiment one more time. They wanted to prove that they could accurately diagnose patients and tell if a patient was faking it or not. The experimenters back at Stanford told the hospital they would in fact send 8 more patients. For the next 5 weeks, the hospital really focused in on patients, trying to find the 8 patients that were quote-unquote faking it. After 5 weeks of looking for the 8 patients, the hospital called Stanford and claimed they found the 8 patients, only for Stanford to tell the hospital that they hadn't sent any 8 patients yet.
I actually do remember hearing about the study that said if you convince someone that they're mentally insane, they can become mentally insane, which is actually kind of strange.
Where Mary Kubalak of Pembroke Pines is judged to be incapacitated for believing she'd won a $7 million Jamaican lottery.
I could not convince her. Nobody could convince her.
She still believes it.
I suppose. It's a sad, tough case.
Mary's own financial advisor took her to court to stop her from sending money to her Jamaican scammer, who had convinced her she must pay fees to get her millions. Over the months, she wired thousands of dollars time and again until she sent more than $370,000 to this man, Chris Andre Dehaney, according to documents and sources. We used Mary's phone records to call the scammer last summer. He posed as a woman.
If I had a way to take Mary $35,000, honestly to God, I would take it.
Thank you. All right, have a good day.
So we go to Jamaica to confront Dehaney, not knowing what we'd find.
Our source says Dehaney lived in this gated community outside of Kingston in the town of Portmore, where inside his house he ran his broad scam. This guy is suspected of stealing $370,000, maybe $400,000 from one old woman in Miami. We'd really like to catch this guy.
Guards remember him. We even know exactly which townhouse he's renting.
Now, if somebody's going to rent a home...
Property owners block our entry and insist he knows...
As a Jamaican, I kind of, I feel bad for the woman, but at this point, I kind of look at it as like a donation, because if you send the first couple $100,000 and you didn't get the payout, and now you're sending even 300 more thousand, you're just donating at that point.
So if you took 10 grilled cheese sandwiches and stacked them on top of each other, kind of like this right here, and then you took those 10 grilled cheese sandwiches and put them in kind of something like this here, except it can hold 10 grilled cheese sandwiches. For now, we'll call this machine the Grilled Cheese Compactor 9000. If you compacted all of those grilled cheese sandwiches into like a 1 inch by 1 inch cube and then ate that 1 inch by 1 inch cube, would you be full? Like, my brain tells me, of course you'll be full. That's 10 grilled cheese sandwiches. But my stomach's telling me, no, you're not going to be full. That's only a little 1 inch by 1 inch cube of grilled cheese sandwiches. And like, of course, there's going to be things at play. If you're eating these grilled cheese sandwiches at nighttime, of course you're going to be able to eat the whole cube. I tried to Google it because I figured some Redditor 9 years ago would want to test my theory or had already thought of this. But for some reason, it seems like Google's just worried about my mental health. I'm not really sure what that's all about. Also, is it even possible to condense 10 sandwiches to a little 1 inch by 1 inch cube? Or is that going to be too dense? How small can you squish a grilled cheese?
Breaking news, a Walmart employee was cooked alive inside of a walk-in oven. Neither the Walmart nor the police are providing any details surrounding what happened, so I did some digging. The incident took place on Saturday at around 9:22 p.m. at the Halifax Central Walmart in Nova Scotia. Police were called at around 9:30 p.m. for a report of a sudden death, which was later revealed to be a 19-year-old woman who was employed at that store. Customers who were shopping that night said they randomly heard a voice over the intercom saying the store is now closed, and then started seeing employees frantically running around saying there's an emergency before they began ushering all of the customers to the front of the store, where they told them they need to drop all of their items and leave immediately. The other employees at that location began speaking out, saying it's protocol to go inside the oven while it's on and clean it. Some people were saying that the emergency release button from the inside was broken and that's how she got trapped, but others are saying that that's not possible. Someone who works at a Walmart bakery said our walk-in ovens have release buttons on the inside. If for any reason you get closed in, you push it and it releases the latch and the oven turns off. Someone said the button was broken, but there's still no way she got closed in accidentally. Either she closed herself in or someone else did. Those doors don't shut on their own and they definitely don't latch on without being pushed or pulled into place. Someone else said the oven gets turned on from the outside by a button. Someone had to turn it on, plus customers could hear her screams. No one could find her and let her out. It's a see-through oven. Foul play, I say. Rest in peace to this poor woman, and as soon as they come out with any new details, I'll keep you guys updated.
This is what orcas see in their nightmares. Allegedly. Let me explain. This is a pilot whale. It's the second biggest dolphin out here, second only to a high contrast attack Oreo. They're also the Ferraris of the ocean, since their hunting strategy involves them diving deep and sea sprinting towards their prey despite holding their breath the entire time. Which is conceptually terrifying for a dolphin that big, that fast, diving that deep. And maybe that's why they're one of the few things alive that can press an orca. Pilot whales can roll in pods that can get to over 100, and there have been reports of them swimming full speed at orcas and sending the plus-size apex predators packing. There was even one time scientists played the sounds of orcas feeding, which led to a pack of pilots pulling up on them. Now there's two reasons this could be happening. Their grocery lists overlap and these are pilots competing for food. Or, and this is my theory, pilot whales practice the art of offensive self-defense, aka the honey badger method. That is, be so much of a migraine that most predators don't even bother. And with killer whales known to prey on pilots, Pilot Pod could be mobbing orcas, and the orcas know better than to start problems with a PTSD torpedo. But the beef ain't all the way figured out, because pilot whales will also mimic orca calls, and Neptune knows what they be saying. And apparently orcas near Iceland are terrified of pilot whales, even though there's very few cases of orcas hunting them, so they might just want all the smoke. And to add another layer to the beef, both pilot and humpback whales have been seen communicating and socializing with each other. The same humpbacks that have generational beef with a freed willy. So who knows what the pilots are packing.
This is a true story about 5 adventure enthusiasts who went to explore the Gulu Cave. 4 of them entered the cave and mysteriously disappeared. When they were found, they were all huddled together, lifeless. But what exactly did they go through? The interior of the cave is shaped like an H, with 2 hollow spaces at the ends connected by a narrow, completely submerged tunnel. Without any specialized equipment, the 4 decided to cross the underwater tunnel using only a guiding rope while holding their breath. One of them, thinking it was too risky, chose not to participate. The other 4 entered the water one by one and disappeared. In about 30 seconds, they reached the hollow space on the other side. However, the narrow, submerged tunnel had a serious problem. The oxygen in the hollow space was limited and gradually decreasing without being replenished. When one of them noticed they were having difficulty breathing, they alerted the others. Due to the confined space, only one person could pass through the tunnel at a time. One of the women decided to try to return on her own. Holding her breath, she began to swim back but soon realized the difference in oxygen concentration between the 2 sides was extreme. Midway, she started feeling the effects of oxygen deprivation on her brain. In desperation, she lost hold of the guiding rope and began swimming aimlessly. She ended up in a dead-end tunnel, so narrow it was impossible to turn around. Struggling for her life, she tried to back out. But when she returned to the main passage, she was already out of air and lost all vital signs. Tragically, she was only one short stretch away from the exit. The other 3, noticing no movement in the water, assumed she had already made it out safely. Another member held their breath and dove in. As they approached the exit, they found the companion's lifeless body blocking the tunnel. They desperately tried to push through, but her body was firmly wedged in the passage. With no space to turn back or move forward, they also succumbed. The 2 remaining members, unaware of the tragedy, repeated the same mistake, entering the tunnel one after the other. The already narrow passage became completely blocked by the bodies. All of them died facing unimaginable despair, staring directly at the exit. The only person who had stayed outside, worried after an hour without any news, called the police. When the rescue team drained the water from the cave, they found the bodies twisted and huddled together, evidence of the terrible suffering they endured in their final moments. After this tragic event, the cave was permanently sealed.
I was talking to my friends about this the other day. I'm like, why would you want to go into a cave where you know you have to like crawl? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you see water and stuff in caves and you gotta like crawl into places, like, why would you do that to yourself? I feel like you're just asking to get set up, because some people be stuck like upside down in caves. It's just like, dude.
is what would happen if you traveled 1 billion years into the past. Shorter days, no visible life, noxious gases in the atmosphere, bombarded by deadly ultraviolet rays from the sun with black sludgy oceans and barren land. The Earth just entered the Neo-Proterozoic era, and this is how long you'd be able to survive here. Everyone knows the survival rule of 3, stating as a general ballpark that we can survive about 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, 3 hours without shelter in extreme environments, and 3 minutes without air. There's obviously exceptions, but it's a generalization. Let's run through that survival list and see how long you'd last on old Earth. Before we can do anything, we still have to be able to see. So will the sun still be there to give us light? Yes, it would, but a typical day would be around 18 hours instead of the usual 24, so we'd have to adjust to that. That is, if we can even survive until then, so let's start with food. Plants and animals, as we know today, basically don't exist yet at all. The Cambrian explosion, a period of rapid evolution that resulted in a lot of new forms of more complex life on Earth, wasn't set to happen for at least another 500 million years, so there wouldn't really be much to eat. Life existed pretty much only in the ocean, as simple, single, or even multi-celled organisms, and possibly some basic plants like algae. Yup, floating bacteria in the ocean is pretty much all we got for dinner. What about drinking water? How were the oceans like? Well, we actually kind of know exactly what they were like. Scientists found 2.7 billion year old water under Ontario, Canada, that remained untouched by our atmosphere for at least 1 billion years. They took it up to study, and one brave soul actually tasted it herself, and it was nasty. Saltier than today's oceans, thicker than regular water, and it also turned orange when exposed to oxygen. This is what we call primordial soup, thick water filled with the early forms of microbial life. Great for kickstarting the theoretical process of evolution, not so much for drinking. What about shelter on old Earth? Could we at least protect ourselves from the elements? Well, a billion years ago, Earth would have been pretty flat. Big mountain ranges haven't had the chance to form yet on our shifting plates, so finding caves to shelter in would prove difficult. All land on the planet was a collection of land masses crammed closely together, forming the supercontinent of Rodinia? Yeah, not even Pangea, that wasn't set to form for another 700 million years. We've actually had a bunch of supercontinents on Earth, like Columbia, Rodinia, Pannotia, Gondwana, and then finally, Pangea. In this case, it was Rodinia, surrounded by a superocean named Morovia. In these days, massive super earthquakes and super volcanoes were the norm, from how close together the tectonic plates were all grinding up against each other, so you'd be dealing with that as well. Microscopic food, salty thick water to drink, and barely any shelter. Things aren't looking so good. How about air? Could we at least breathe out here? The air was technically breathable, but only for a few minutes due to the low concentration of oxygen before you'd pass out. Oxygen levels were at about 2%, while today we're at 21%, so breathing would be difficult. And there would almost definitely be some weird airborne microbes in the air that our bodies aren't used to and would us if we inhaled them. Not to mention the ozone layer wasn't set to form for another 400 million years, so the sun's radiation would very quickly fry you too. If the heat didn't get you first, as the average global temperature could have been anywhere around 50 degrees Celsius, but they're really just guessing here. The only thing that would be the same as it is right now is gravity, our friendly universal constant. But this is really all just a scientific guess at best. In fact, we're missing about 1 billion years of Earth's history, during which time we don't really know what happened. When dealing with these timescales of hundreds of millions, billions of years, we look at the geological record for study, core samples, and rock layers. The deeper we go, the further back in time we are, and newer, more recent layers get stacked on top. We can analyze these layers for their chemical composition and find out what the Earth was like during a specific era. But all over the entire world, there's an abrupt missing section of layers, and we have no idea why. Known as the Great Unconformity, best exposed in the Grand Canyon, where you can find Cambrian-era rocks about 500 million years old, stacked directly on top of Precambrian rocks about 1.7 billion years old. That's 1.2 billion years missing, right in the middle of which we'd find Earth 1 billion years ago. Yeah, I know it's a lot of math, but basically we have no clue what it was like.
That woman, they said, drank that old water. Oh my gosh, she's brave. Like, there's definitely a lot of things in that old water. Like, why would you drink that?
If you could rack your brain right now to ask yourself what is the most disturbing Disney Channel original movie, which one would you pick? If you chose Don't Look Under the Bed, you're correct, because the movie actually almost never even made it to television. Any of the sequences that did eventually make the cut were considered so disturbing, this is actually one of the only Disney Channel original movies that has a TV PG rating. Anne Sweeney, who was the president of Disney Channel at the time, as well as countless other executives, had a lot of issues with this film. And even to this day, there are still some sequences some scenes that have never seen the light of day. They were not going to be included in the movie. And I think in part, the credit should go to the director, who was really trying to creatively push the boundaries of what could be included in children's horror. Even just beyond the disturbing imagery, they explored some pretty dark themes in a children's movie, starting to play with psychological horror when Frances can see things that everybody else thinks she's crazy for. In 2006, Disney Channel had to pull it from the October catalog. It will not be on Disney Channel again.
Breaking news, the high school track runner who attacked another student with a baton during the race has officially been charged with assault and battery. Those tears aren't fooling anyone. She has yet to apologize. Her and her family have denied any wrongdoing, and she's only upset because of the amount of backlash she's receiving. She said her baton got stuck and it rolled up her back. She lost her balance, and when she pumped her arm, she got hit. She was cutting in when it happened, and she even blames her, saying she should have waited a little bit longer to cut in. I know my intentions. I would never hit someone on purpose. And her mother doubled down, saying she doesn't even have to see the video. She knows 100% that she would never do that to anybody. She even said there's other angles where it proves this whole thing was an accident, but every other angle that comes out makes it look more and more intentional. The victim's family said they haven't received any apologies or remorse even after their daughter was diagnosed with a concussion and possible skull fracture, and they're looking to take out a protective order against the other students. Let me know what you guys think about this. Does this look like an accident, or did she do it on purpose? And as always, I'll keep you guys updated.
Yeah, I actually remember seeing that video, and I was kind of just like, that looked hella intentional. Like, she said, oh, she should have slowed down. How is she supposed to slow down if she's in front of you? She can't even see what's going on behind her, and you're running. Mind you, if you're running at full speed, you're not thinking like, oh yeah, I'm about to get blasted with a baton in the back of my head.
Crazy things happening in the world right now. The boss let go of a member of his staff because she came back from maternity leave pregnant again. A recall has been issued after Minute Maid sold zero sugar lemonade that contained 40 grams of sugar. This is the most recent and clearest image of Mars that we have. And this is the most recent image of Earth that we have. For the first time in recorded history, which is 130 years, there was no snow on Mount Fuji in November. A 1,000-pound tuna was caught in New Hampshire. Snoop Dogg has confirmed that he has a staff member that makes sure that everyone else doesn't get too high while they're smoking. A man who won an $11 million lottery says he now feels regret for buying houses for his friends that he is no longer in contact with. A popular flat earther YouTuber admitted he was wrong after taking a trip to Antarctica to test the theory of flat earth. An Italian nun was arrested over strong links to a powerful mafia network.
A worldwide police notice has been issued for a missing college student who traveled from the US to the Dominican Republic for spring break. And despite a massive search being underway, she is still nowhere to be found 6 days later. Sudiksha Kunaki, who is only 20 years old and studying medicine at Pittsburgh University, went to the beach with a group of friends after clubbing at about 5 a.m. After about an hour, most of the group called it a night and headed back to the hotel. But Sudiksha stayed with the guy that they met while they were out, named Joshua Ribe from Iowa, USA. In fact, this was the last known security footage of Sudiksha headed to the beach. It looks like she was quite drunk and unstable and in the arms of the guy who is believed to be Joshua. The two of them reportedly went swimming in the ocean together, and the waves were pretty rough. Now, Joshua gave authorities 3 different accounts of what happened next. The first being that he was hit by a big wave and started to feel sick. He asked her if she was okay before going back to the shore and passing out on the sand. When he woke up, she had vanished, and she's never been seen since. The second account was that before he fell asleep, he saw her in knee-deep water. And the third account being that he saw her walking along the shore before he passed out. Now, sources say that translation issues could have been the reason for those differences. Authorities have speculated that Sudiksha may have drowned, but because they still have not found her body on land or at sea, they released this worldwide missing persons police notice. Yesterday, her father called on authorities to expand search efforts because he is growing concerned that she was kidnapped or trafficked since her body never washed ashore. Now, police say that there were no signs of violence and that Joshua is not considered to be a suspect at this time. But of course, as we know more, I'll keep you guys updated.
In medieval times, a 7'2" black man was given one of the best jobs during that era. The king instructed Roque Jose to sleep daily with slave women due to his long and powerful build. King's primary objective was to construct an army of tall, strong, and muscular slaves. Over the years, Jose slept with countless women and had 249 children whom he equally loved.
The top 3 most protected people in the world. Number 3 is the Pope. And I don't know when the last time somebody tried to take out the Pope was, probably in like the 14th century. But the Pope mobile is the coolest protection measure of all. I mean, bulletproof glass on all sides, driving around town like you're a porcelain doll on display. It's just priceless. Number 2 is Vladimir Putin, and I think a few people have it out for him. But, you know, he kind of earned it. He's got it out for an entire country. Because why? Because he wants the land back or something? But it's like, you know, Vladimir, keep your head, I don't know, on a swivel. If you like this list and want more about other nonsense, follow me. Leave me a comment with the person you thought would be the most protected in the world. Also follow my wife Samantha, who I've tagged, and find me on Cameo if you want a personalized message. Number 1, now I thought it was going to be our president. I thought the U.S. takes extreme measures to protect our president, but not as extreme as North Korea for Kim Jong-un.
I don't know if it's me, but I remember them saying that the Pope actually got attacked like a couple months ago or something like that. Like I don't remember the specific details, but I'm pretty sure I heard about it. Like someone tried to like take him out or something like that.
There's some crazy things that people originally resisted. Streaming services were laughed at first, with TV networks insisting nobody would ever want to watch movies or shows on the internet. Online dating was considered desperate by people in the 90s and early 2000s, thinking only the socially inept would meet partners on the internet. Self-checkouts were seen as confusing, with the early users insisting they were slower and less convenient than real cashiers. Movies with sound were considered a gimmick, with silent film actors, critics, and audiences in the 1920s thinking talkies would never replace cinema. They were wrong. The Walkman was ridiculed by critics in the 1980s, insisting that nobody would ever want to listen to music alone on the go. Ebooks were hated by book lovers, with many refusing to believe digital reading could ever match the feel of paper. Airplanes were thought impossible, with respected scientists in the early 1900s claiming humans would never achieve powered flight, just 2 years before the Wright brothers proved them wrong. Cars were mocked as impractical, with people in the early 1900s calling them a passing fad because horses were way more reliable.
Hey, that's proof that if someone laughs at you or said like, hey, you can't do this, or like no one would ever take you seriously, or no one is ever gonna like your music, or no one's ever gonna watch your YouTube videos, or no one's ever gonna do this or that, it's fake. Because people always laugh at something until it actually works.
This is the true story. A 17-year-old girl was at school when she suddenly started feeling severe pain. Not realizing she was going into labor, she rushed to the bathroom. But then, the unthinkable happened. She gave birth in the toilet, desperate and afraid of being discovered. She took an extreme measure. She tried to flush the baby away, but what she didn't expect was for the baby's head to get stuck in the pipe. Terrified, she fled the scene. Minutes later, school staff heard muffled crying from the bathroom and called the police. Firefighters arrived quickly and assessed the severity of the situation. Carefully, they cut part of the plumbing and managed to push the baby upward, where another team was able to safely pull the child out. After 3 hours of tension, the baby was rescued and, amazingly, without any injuries. In the end, the child was taken home by family members, where they received the necessary care. This incident, although shocking, reminded everyone of the importance of staying calm in difficult situations and the power of quick, coordinated action. It was a fortunate outcome thanks to the bravery and quick thinking of the rescuers involved.
And sometimes you never know when you meet a psycho. Meet Senna. Meet Valkyrie. They was in that last picture I showed you. Look, they're right over here in the back. Anyway, Senna and Valkyrie are streamers. Very popular ones. In fact, one day they decide, you know what? Let's do a subathon. And what a subathon is a streamer will continuously stream as long as people subscribe to them. Subscribing to them like someone would subscribe to Netflix. You subscribe to them and they'll keep streaming. Usually people will cap it at like a month. But see, Senna and Valkyrie had a problem. As you live stream, you're live. So wherever you are in the world is wherever you are in the world. So they decide to go outside with another streamer named Emaru. Now, as they're walking about, they run into this guy named Russell. Russell says, oh my gosh, y'all are my favorite streamers. Like he just ran into them by coincidence. But people know the game by now. This is why you see some streamers walk around with security, because too many people run into them by coincidence. But boy was just asking for a picture. So the girl said, all right, come on. take the picture. Boom. They say, all right, for sure, we out. They start leaving. Boy says, hey, can I hang out with y'all? Oh, and here we go. And boy got that mad shifty energy. He talking about, can I hang out? They're like, you know what? We gotta go. Like, you know, we gotta go. He said, all right, for sure. And to all my young men out there who just don't understand, if she look at you like this, she don't like you. If she look at you like this, no, she not smiling at you. She's smiling because she's uncomfortable. She don't like you. You need to leave. So the girls are walking along, they get to their destination, having a good time, and they run into this dude. Does he look familiar? They said, nah, ain't no way that's bro. He not that crazy. He said, nah, I'm that crazy. Don't get it twisted. And here's where things start to get wicked. Yeah, look a little closer. Russell from earlier had a quick little outfit change and ran into them again. At this point, the streamers, as you could probably imagine, are freaked out, but they're still trying to keep it cool, kind of laughing it off a little bit. But then Broski starts to empty the clip with his weirdness. He says, strap in, can I sing? They said, what? He said, sing for a change? Matter of fact, can I have your number? He's specifically asking this streamer, Emaru, for her number. The girl who looked at him like this. She said, ooh, I don't got a phone. He said, don't worry, I got a phone. You could just put your number on mine. The streamers look at bro like, come on. He said, you know what? All right, let me just crash out. He gets up and starts to lose it. He says out his own mouth, all right, I'm gonna just keep following you then. They leave. They still laughing it off a little bit. They look back. Broski following them. At this point, the cameraman kind of in front of them, trying to block them. Broski starts to lose it on the cameraman a little bit. Talking about, you want to scrap? You want to go? Senna immediately, shout out Senna, jumps in front of her friends, puts them behind her, and starts screaming for security. Security rushes in. At least I think it was security, because you can't really like make them out in the video. The security guard goes, hey, what's the problem? And suddenly Russell, the weird shifty dude that's following them, yells out, man, I'm a somebody. Starts reaching in his pocket, and boom, that was it. The girls take off screaming. They run into a store saying, help, help, somebody's trying to us. At this point, the camera's off. They mentioned this part afterwards. So the store people are just kind of looking at them. They don't really know what to do. And finally, one store person grabs them and brings them to the back. They call the police. Bro saw them go into the store and said, ooh, the block is hot. So he decides to leave. Too many people. And well, for some reason, the store people told Senna, Valkyrie, and Emaru, the streamers, to leave. And so they hide in a shed for 15 minutes waiting for police. They assured their fans that they were okay and all was good. Psych, stupid. Another problem arises. The internet. As many of you are probably aware, some people on the internet just don't have sense and they always trying to figure something out. Too many people were online saying this interaction was staged. That's what the girls get for not having bodyguards. The cameraman should have threw the camera down and started throwing hands. Now that last one isn't too unreasonable, but the problem is you're focused on the wrong guy. And you don't know what the cameraman was doing behind the scenes. So Senna and Valkyrie went live to address the situation. They said, first of all, they had to stop their subathon because, you know, they got to process everything. Second of all, the police are involved. Third of all, the cameraman was doing the best he could in that situation. And then they start breaking into tears. Well, because it's a traumatizing event. A dude is reaching into his pocket saying, I'm about to, you think it might be your last day. If you find yourself blaming these streamers in any capacity, instead of just blaming bro right here for being psychotic, then wisdom is chasing you, but you are faster. And that's your twin, you twinning them. Women go through this every single day, and most of the time it's not on camera. To all my young women out there, if you ever find yourself in a situation like this, my advice to you is guys are weird. If you even shake wrong, run. Zero politeness 2025. If you get that weird feeling, leave immediately. If they keep following you, scream for help like these young ladies did, and you keep asking until somebody helps you. Because like I tell my sister, 90% of the time, being polite and just saying no thank you will work. But at 10% chance you meet a real weirdo that just won't take no for an answer, those numbers are too great for me. So just walk away. Most dudes will understand. If it's a weirdo and he follows you, we here now. It's time to start asking for help. If you're the type of person that carries pepper spray on him, then strike first. Let that thing fly. You're helping him. He not gonna do it again. But man, it really is a shame. You can't just go out and live life. You telling me I gotta look over my shoulder because I'm a woman? Stop playing. All the best for the streamers. Wishing them the best. Wishing the worst for the weirdo.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not a streamer, you know what I'm saying? I'm a YouTuber, TikToker, content creator, whatever. But I'm probably going to start streaming eventually. And I can tell you from what I've seen, mostly with the female streamers, there's always like a lot of weird coincidences that go on stream. So that's why I like a lot of popular streamers like Speed, Kai Cenat, and all these other top tier streamers. They'll go out with bodyguards and stuff like that, which is smart. So I feel like with female streamers specifically, because I know there's a lot of weird dudes. Thank God I'm not one of them. There's a lot of weird dudes out there. For female streamers, I feel like they specifically need the bodyguards.
These were the final moments before a family was executed by the cartel. On the night of June 9th, 2024, a security camera in León, Mexico captured something chilling. The footage shows 5 National Guard officers walking up to a small, dimly lit home. No lights, no warning, just silence. They forced their way inside, no warrant, no explanation. For 7 minutes, they searched the place. Then, as quickly as they arrived, they leave. But one of them is holding something. A large black bag. What was inside, no one knows. But minutes later, cartel members arrive. A pickup truck flies down the street and screeches to a stop. 4 armed men jump out, no mask, no hesitation. They kick down the door and storm in, guns blazing. Then pure hell. Bullets shred through walls, through bodies, through everything in their path. Then the screams, women crying, begging for their lives. But the gunmen, they don't care, they don't stop. They move room to room, firing shot after shot, making sure no one gets out alive. And the worst part, a neighbor's security camera caught everything. Not just the gunfire, but the screams. When authorities arrive, it's a massacre. 4 women, a 2-year-old toddler, and a 3-month-old baby, all executed. The only survivors, 2 men who barely escaped by hiding on the roof. But here's where things get even darker. Those same National Guard officers from the footage, days later, they were arrested. Turns out they weren't just bystanders. They were in on it. Authorities believe that the cartel was hunting for one specific person, but when they didn't find the guy, they wiped out his entire family. If you guys want to listen to more Mexican cartel videos like this, then like and follow.
Dude, the cartel is vicious. Like, they do not care. If you cross them, they won't just wipe you, they'll wipe your whole bloodline, I swear to you. It's sad because I don't know why they decided to take out a toddler and a 3-month-old baby, knowing damn well those 2 couldn't do anything. I mean, I guess it limits their suffering, and it doesn't give them the chance to, I guess, get revenge. I don't even know, like, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of weird.
Someone messaged me and said I should lip read this for you all. So, Miguel, this is for you. Let's go ahead and try. I tell you right now, bro, keep my son out of this bro. Okay, that's super fast. So, like always, we're going to slow it down and zoom in. I'll tell you right now, bro, keep my son out of this bro. And that's it. So a lot of other lip readers saw the same thing, specifically that last line. But hang on, there's more to this. So you actually don't have to rely on lip readers for this one, because the person he was talking to, Stephen A. Smith, he's telling everyone what was said to him. Let's see it.
Approached me during the game, and he said, "Stop effing with my son. That's my effing son. Stop effing with my son." I said, "What? Nah, man, straight up, man to man. Real talk. Stop effing with my son." And I saw how furious he was. And I said, "We can talk about it later." "Nah, F that. Stop effing with my son. That's my son. I said, "All right, dog. Fine." And he walked away. That's all he said.
That is not what I saw at all. Same with any of the other lip readers I've talked about this. We're going to need to watch it again. I will say, though, that guy was not only there, he is the person that was being spoken to, so I would trust him before I trust any lip reader, including myself. That is like, maybe he's remembering part of the conversation that happened before that video clip. Or maybe we're all wrong. Fun fact, do you know you can only see about 40% of the English language on a person's lips when they're speaking? Yeah, So let's watch it again and you guys decide.
Well, I don't think he necessarily said exactly what LeBron was saying. I think he was just mostly giving like a rundown, like, you know, he was just telling me to like stop talking about his son like that. But in my opinion, I get where LeBron's coming from as a father, but he also got to understand that Stephen A is a commentator and he can make any opinion-based comment on anyone in the NBA specifically. So I don't necessarily think LeBron should have bugged about it. And although he was calling his son trash, but to be fair, his son kind of is trash. I mean, he's getting better, obviously. Like, as you do things and you get more used to things, you get better. But LeBron's son is only in the NBA, in my opinion, because he's LeBron's son. Like, I'm gonna keep it a buck. Like, you know what I'm saying? Remember, 70% of you guys are not subscribed, so make sure to subscribe. And if you haven't seen my haunted vlog video, check it out. It's coming right after this video. It's about to pop up, so please check it out. Love y'all.
Thank you all for watching this here video.